This is the Sons of UCF, the number one place for UCF sports, with your distinguished host, Adam.
What was your reaction when you got notified that you were going to be a Hall of Famer? How does that sound to you, Coach O'Leary, Hall of Famer?
Yeah, I'm inducted into a number of Hall of Fame.
And Mike.
I don't know if you know this, but I won the 5K race that we did a couple weeks ago.
Now, here are the guys.
Yes, we are back, and better than ever, episode number 163 of the Sons of UCF. My name is Adam, and as always, I have my friend and yours, Mr. UCF Mike, back for yet another week. Mike, welcome back, my friend. Happy New Year to you. How are you?
Happy New Year, man. I'm doing very good. I mean, I've been better physically. This past week took a little toll on me. I don't know if I got it from the game. I don't think I actually got it from the game, but I did contract COVID this past week.
Uh-oh. Recovering.
Today's one of the better days. Like, felt like crap last week. Yesterday, a lot better. Today, much better. So I'm pretty much, I think, done with it.
Well, that is good news. A lot of people were curious. You weren't on the live show this Thursday. We didn't want to break the news that you had entered health and safety protocols, but definitely glad that you are on the upswing. I know your family's doing well as well, so that is great news, and hopefully you'll be back and better than ever in no time, Mike. But nothing's going to be better than episode 163 because I think it's the best episode 163 we've ever done. I'm going to say that right now because here's what we got coming up, Mike. We have Cow of the Week. We'll give you an update on the College Bowl Pick'em. I think we have a guy who may just be the winner at this point, so we'll update you on those standings as well. We have Austin Camden. He was a D lineman, a walk-on. Joined the program in 2017. This was his last season with the Knights. He joined us for a really fun interview, Mike. It's good to get his perspective. Gave a lot of good insight on the Heupel transition, on this season with Malzahn and everything kind of going on. So if you're curious about what 2021 was all about, Austin gave you some really good perspective, so don't miss that, Mike. Basketball, a big win last week, Mike. Then a really rough road loss in the conference, but a big win last week against Michigan. And we will touch on all that as well. And then there's news, of course, as there always is on the football front. Transfer portal giveth, transfer portal taketh away. We'll break down all that information as well. So that's what you have in store for episode 163. Make sure you're following us on social media at Sons of UCF, everywhere you do that kind of thing. Our website, twonightsmedia.com as well, Mike. And that's 163. I think it's a good one.
It's a good one. I know the interview is a good one. We just got done doing that one. Austin Camden, maybe a name not everybody is familiar with, but the guy's been here for 5 years. He's a true Knight at heart, and it was a good time talking to him. You get to hear some good stories out of him. And the rest of the show, we haven't done yet, so I can't tell you how good that is. It might not be that good.
Well, it ebbs and flows. But if you saw somebody running down the field with the Warren I-4 trophy after the game with the Cows this year, that was Austin Camden. So he will give you some insight on how heavy that trophy really was, behind the scenes stuff with all the transfers. What does he really call Big Cat? I was dying to ask that question. So stay tuned. And we're doing something special with this interview as well. First time ever we've done this. We actually recorded that one via video. So the audio may sound a little different than what you're hearing now, so our apologies in advance. But we're actually going to cut that video up and put it on our YouTube channel as well. So I know sometimes you guys like to see the interviews and sort of see the interaction and the facial expression. So we'll try something different this week, and maybe if it works, we'll stick with it. But you'll see the Austin Camden interview live on video here on YouTube coming up here in a couple days. So make sure you check that out as well, Mike. But let's start off with football. I want to go basketball. I figured basketball would lead the show this week, but football always jumps in there and just gets in the drama, Mike. And the transfer portal is obviously the hottest issue going on right now in college athletics. And UCF has been both a winner and a loser in some respects. Probably the biggest news early this week, Mike, Tatum Bethune, junior linebacker, decided that he was going to put his name into the portal, made the official announcement, and essentially said he's not sure where he's going. He's open to anybody, but I think there's a lot of rumors on where he might end up, Mike. But Tatum Bethune, big loss, little loss, no loss. What are your thoughts?
Well, you can't say it's no loss. The guy was probably the best linebacker we had on the team this past season. 108 tackles, 2 interceptions. The guy was a very good player all year for us. And for the last 3 years, really, you can see the improvement year to year. It would have been nice to have him back as a senior to be a leader on this team. I guess that doesn't really hold water with too many guys anymore. Now the transfer portal's out there. People are going, there's not really loyalty among players, as there never was with coaches and all that. So it is what it is. He may not leave. He may come back. We've seen that happen too. We've seen guys jump in the portal and then come back a couple weeks later, they change their mind. So that story's not over yet.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's definitely a loss.
Yeah.
It is a loss. And if you look at it on paper from the team that we had in 2021, now that can be a completely different team as we're seeing now in the portal too. Who's taking his place? Then we'll see if we're getting better or worse.
Yeah, I think that news caught a lot of people off guard because, to your point, Mike, he had his best season as a Knight, 108 tackles. The year before, he only had 57. He was the clear starter. I mean, he was probably our best defensive player throughout the year. I don't know if that's a hot take, but he's probably at least the most consistent defensive player. It was not a playing time issue, and so a lot of people kind of scratching their heads and trying to figure out what would drive him to put his name in the portal. I think obviously a couple theories. One potentially being floated out there was maybe he just didn't get along with T. Will and the new staff. I mean, we all forget that these aren't the coaches who recruited him. These aren't the coaches that he kind of signed up to play for. Even though he played well, maybe he just decided he wanted to try something different and maybe get a change of scenery. The other kind of elephant in the room is his former D coordinator, Randy Shannon, is now the D coordinator at Florida State. So maybe he's looking to reunite with Randy Shannon, go to Florida State and get into some familiar coaching. I don't know if that's the accurate thing, but either way, a lot of people scratching their heads at the move. But I mean, I'm going to borrow a Mike Tomlin line here. And I think the quote goes something like, "We don't want hostages, we want volunteers." And if Tatum wasn't happy at UCF, this wasn't the right fit for him. To your point, that sucks. I mean, we as we sit here now, we basically lost our starting quarterback from last year and our starting middle linebacker. Those are two tough losses. So this is one that hurts. But if he's happier elsewhere, if this isn't the spot for him, all we can do at this point is just say, good luck to you and always a Knight if you want to come back. But it definitely, to your point, is a big blow for the defense.
It could be for a million reasons that he's leaving. We have no idea what it is. My first thoughts always goes to the money. Is somebody paying him? This was awfully quick decision for him. Came out of kind of nowhere. Did somebody just get in his ear and say, "Hey, here's a bag of money for you if you go here"? Maybe it has nothing to do with that. Maybe he just doesn't want to play under Gus's system, T-Will's system. I wouldn't see that as a reason. Not from anything we've heard from all the players about T-Will and Gus. Everybody seems to love him. So maybe there was an incident at the end of the Gasparilla Bowl, right? When Malzahn was really yelling at him on the sidelines for something. So that not sit well with him. Who knows? There could be a million different things. The transfer portal is going to give it and it's going to take it away. And right now it's taken a couple of our big time players the last few years. Mackenzie Milton transferred, Dylan Gabriel's transferring, and now Tatum Bethune. So we're going to see a lot more of it.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the challenge is as fans, we're all trying to understand the why. And to your point, we may never really know the why. I mean, maybe in 3 years when we're able to get Tatum on the Sons of UCF podcast, episode 570, we can ask him, the why. But we may never know the why. And look, the reality is these guys don't owe us the answer to why. In real life, we've all changed jobs. We've all left certain, business arrangements. I mean, that's just kind of how that works. And I think as fans, it's just kind of getting used to what this looks like. I think the one thing that fans at UCF, and tell me if you think this theory is true, Mike, that I think that fans get annoyed with is anybody who's leaving with the perception being that they have to go on to something bigger and better because UCF isn't enough for them, right? I think the Dylan stuff was what it was. But he had this air of, I want to go play somewhere else, somewhere at the next level. And with Tatum initially, with people thinking he's going to Florida State, I think that's what rubs people the wrong way. Look, we've got like 10, 12 other guys in the portal, and a lot of these guys are backup players, special teams guys who never saw the field. And we typically go, good luck to those guys, and they end up at a smaller school or something like that, and we wish them well and we move on. But when you want to go to a Power 5 school, that's going to be a new wrinkle for us, and I think that's where some of the feelings are coming from fans. But the reality is we may never know, what Tatum's decisions are. And frankly, I'm not sure that he has any obligation to tell us, unfortunately.
Yeah, and that's with us joining the Big 12, too, coming up.
Yeah.
I know maybe guys only have 1 year left. They're never going to play in the Big 12 if they stay here. But that's got to be a factor going forward. We got, if people are saying they want to go play for P5 teams, well, we're going to be a P5 team basically in 2 years.
Yeah.
So at least we'll have that going for us. But who knows why this kid's leaving. I think money always is a factor in it. I'm not surprised if it is. So good luck to him. And if he decides to come back, then we'll take him back too.
Well, I think the other thing that's at play here is that I guess we don't forget about it because we know it, but the turnover that we've had from a coaching standpoint, I think is certainly these are the sort of the ripple effects of that, right? Because the rumor is that, he wants to go to Florida State maybe and reconnect with Randy Shannon, who obviously was the D coordinator. Other breaking news that happened on Monday, Mike, Dylan Gabriel has now decided not to go to UCLA and instead is going to go to Oklahoma, where he follows Jeff Lebby, who is now their offensive coordinator. So both those guys are essentially going back to schools with the coaches that, they recruited under or the coaches they played for. So I think this also goes to show a school like UCF that's had so much turnover at the coaching level. I mean, we're going to continue to face this. There are guys on this team, like I think I have this right. I was actually trying to think about this earlier. There's not a single guy outside of the transfer portal guys, so maybe the Big Cats and the Ricky Bryants, that Gus and that staff recruited to UCF. So everybody else is from another staff. And so all those guys had other coaches. All those guys signed up for other coaches. So I think with the turnover, we're just going to continue to see this until somebody, hopefully it's Gus, is able to stay at UCF for long enough to build the foundation of a class. But with a school that has this much turnover like this, I think we're going to keep facing this either this year or even maybe in the next year.
First of all, bravo to Dylan Gabriel. How many T-shirts did he sell in L.A. to UCLA fans? For how long was he committed there?
3 weeks, maybe.
3 weeks of T-shirts, air fresheners, fanny packs, DG the brand, coming to L.A., coming soon. Until it's not. So he decides now to go to Oklahoma and sell some T-shirts over there. Now, if he's really smart, he waits for Lane to get on the train and takes this to Mississippi before the season starts. He hits another city. This guy's going to rack in the big bucks with DG the brand now. What was the other question, sir?
I don't know if there's a question there. There was just coaching turnover is going to keep causing transfers.
Yeah, I mean, coaches are familiar with players just like we talk about head coaches hiring assistants. Well, when assistants move on, they have contacts with the players that they worked with, and it just works down the line like that. So they'll bring their players over. We're getting guys the same way. I mean, Ricky Barber played for the defensive line coach, right, last year.
Kenny Martin, yeah.
In Eastern Kentucky. So that happens all the time, too. So G.J. Kinney, I think, took one of our quarterbacks already, didn't he? Who was it?
He took a quarterback coach. What's his name? Andrew Brito?
Yeah. So there you go. There's an example. It's already happened. So I'm not surprised by that at all.
Well, interesting about Dylan, and now this is off topic, but whatever. So ultimately, I assume what Dylan's goal is he wants to go to the NFL, right? Like, I assume that's what he's trying to do. He's trying to get himself to the NFL. Like, how does this play? If I'm a drafting Dylan Gabriel kind of guy, like, can he only play in Lebby's system? You know what I mean? Like that's the problem with Bethune maybe following Randy Shannon or Dylan following Lebby. Like, they're going into a business that you don't get to pick your job. They pick you. So you can't go in and be like, you know what, I don't like this offensive coordinator at the Rams. I'd rather play for the Eagles. Like that's where you end up. So I wonder how the NFL is going to start thinking about this. Now, trust me, talent's talent. I don't think they're going to give a crap. But I wonder how they're going to start thinking about this overall, where Dylan can only go play for Jeff Lebby. That's the only coordinator he can flourish under. And how's that going to play when he gets to the NFL? And surprise, surprise, Lebby's not there anymore.
Yeah, that's why we were talking about when Mackenzie Milton, when Heupel was coming in. And it would show that he can play under different systems. And then, he went to FSU to play under another one with Norvell. That just shows your range as a quarterback. You're not just a system quarterback. Dylan Gabriel doesn't care about that stigma. He wants to go back and just chuck it down the field and throw for 80 touchdowns and then hope the scouts see the talent in him, But he's smart to learn a different system, play a different style of football. Obviously, that's definitely best for his growth and probably what the NFL wants to see. But I think he just wants to put up his best numbers possible and take his shots that way.
Well, and he may just have the chance. You never know. And it'll be funny, Mike. Do we see Dylan back in the bounce house ever? I mean, obviously, we are trying to get our way to the Big 12. 2023 seems to be the season we're targeting. By all indications, Texas and Oklahoma they're not going to pay the money to get out early, so they may be theirs until 2025. So is there any chance we see Dylan in our debut season in the Big 12?
That would be fantastic, right? That would be some great theater. Dylan Gabriel, and it has to be back in Orlando, too, in the bounce house.
Yeah.
with the crowd just on him and see how he reacts to it. That would be incredible. That would be a great game to watch. 2023 is possible. Now, Dylan, a lot of people think maybe he wants to play 1 year and then take a shot at the NFL after next season. Maybe that's what his plan is. But you never know what's going to happen next season. I mean, who says he doesn't get dinged up and misses half the games and then has to come back and prove that he can stay healthy? You know, something like that, or anything can happen.
Let's just hope
So,
Levy
it's
doesn't leave
possible.
for his sake. If Levy becomes a head coach of Akron or something, oof, Dylan's in for a rough one.
There's the other possibility. You know, is he even playing for Oklahoma in 2 years? And then, but if that did happen, and the Big 12 wanted to do us a favor on the way in and say whatever to Oklahoma, because we're gonna have to play one of them, I would think, Texas or Oklahoma. I don't think we play both. We play probably one, or the Big 12, the way they do the scheduling is 9 conference games?
I think so, yeah.
By then, there would be too many teams for those 2 years, so I don't know how they would do it. It would be interesting. It would definitely be fun. That would be a hot ticket in the cabana, I can tell you that.
I need to spend some time going through the roster to figure out which defensive player is going to be around then that's going to lay a hit on Dylan, so we can get back to that later on, Mike. But so obviously Tatum gone. Presumably gone. He hasn't officially announced where he's going yet. But his name was still kind of peeking around today, Mike, for a few different reasons. And one of them was UCF has brought in 3 transfers over the past week. One of them is a pretty big name, Terrence Lewis, a former 5-star linebacker out of Miami Central down in Miami. Originally went to Maryland, had injury to his knee and shoulder, had surgery, did not step on the field at all last season. Announced he was going to the transfer portal. He's been in there for a while now, Mike, and today he announces he's coming to UCF. So a new linebacker, Terrence Lewis, 6'1", 200 pounds. Again, a 5-star linebacker out of high school, the number 1 rated linebacker last year's class. Of all the linebackers in all the land, he was number 1, although somehow he's now a 3-star on the transfer. I don't know how that works, Mike. But either way, Terrence Lewis is your newest knight. He, by the way, I think is going to be the highest rated ever recruit to UCF. So I think he's going to eclipse the kid from Oregon who previously held that spot. So he'll be the highest rated recruit ever to UCF, Mike. I assume you think this is a big deal, yes?
Definitely. And you say that highest ranking ever. I think the year Dante came out was probably like the last year they didn't keep rankings or something. It was close. Dante would have been the greatest recruit of all time. I think that's been documented somehow. But this kid, as a 5-star, I mean, this is all we pray for around here. Can we get some 5-stars? The kid never played it down in college, so it's not like he went from a 5 to a 3 because of play on the field. He's been hurt the whole time. He got hurt in high school right before going to Maryland and never played at all last season. So we have 4 years out of this kid. If he's anything like he was shaping up to be in high school, he's going to be an animal for us. It's exactly what we need with Tatum Bethune leaving. And his kid steps in perfectly.
Well, here's the connection. He went to the same high school as Tatum Bethune, and when he tweeted that he was coming to UCF, Tatum Bethune retweeted it with a fire emoji and some exclamation points. So some Knight fans may be thinking Tatum's having second thoughts. I don't personally believe that. I think that's just supporting his friend or whatever. But obviously, Terrence Lewis coming to UCF. Here's what Andrew Ivins, he's a lead scout of 24/7. Here's some footnotes on what he thought of Terrence Lewis as a player. Said he's short-tempered. Well, I don't know if that's good or bad. Wasn't asked to cover a lot in high school, so doesn't have a lot of experience covering tight ends or covering receivers or backs, and needs to get better at stacking and shedding blocks. So those were the kind of the recruiting points or the developmental points that he had back in the day, Mike. But either way, a nice get in, Tatum out and Terrence Lewis in. I mean, some people are saying that's an upgrade. We don't really know yet because he hasn't played, but it definitely, I guess softens the sting a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, you were losing a linebacker, yes, a guy that had a very good season, to getting a guy that if we would have got this guy going into last season, every single person listening to this podcast would have lost their freaking minds. The number 1 linebacker in the country, is that what you said he was rated?
That's correct.
Okay. Tell me we signed him last year, right? There's a big party on this show. We're having live shows. We're doing celebration dances. So the kid didn't play 1 year of college, and now he's coming to us now. We should be very happy with it. It sucks that we're losing Bethune, but if this kid's anything like he's supposed to be, this may be an upgrade.
Well, turns out he's not coming alone, Mike. Later on in the afternoon on Monday, K.D. McDaniel, formerly of the Kentucky Wildcats, also a linebacker, also announced that he was going to be coming to UCF. He's 6'2", 250. He's been at Kentucky now for a couple seasons, so I think he's got 2 years of eligibility left. Not many stats to speak of in 2019, 2020. Played in 9 games, registered 4 tackles total. In 2021, played in 7 games. He had 13 tackles, and he was a 3-star kid out of high school, Mike. But 6'3", 250, that's pretty impressive size. So we lose Tatum Bethune, and we grab 2 linebackers out of the portal. I don't know if those 2 things are connected, by the way. Did Tatum see us recruiting these and maybe didn't want to be here? I don't know if there's a connection point there, Mike, but we pick up 2 for the price of 1 right now. Any thoughts on Katie McDaniel?
I've never seen him play.
Okay.
I'll be honest with you right now. But the way we're looking at this sport now, these kids are getting paid. It's basically like professional sports. So basically what we did is work out a two-for-one trade. Now, a couple of minutes ago, I told you I was excited to have a 5-star come in. Now you're throwing in this other kid with it, a 2-for-1 deal. It definitely softens the blow. But like I told you just a couple seconds ago, I've never seen him play. So I want to tell you how good he is. I don't know. But I'm hoping the coaching staff knows exactly what they're doing. And they're bringing in talent, man. We had 10 guys still we could sign after the early signing period, right? I think we had 10 more scholarships. Yep. Obviously, maybe even a couple more because now with guys leaving, Bethune leaving, that opens one up, right?
Yep.
So that number is going to go up and down for the next couple of months. Get in, buckle up, and get ready for the transfer portal ride of 2022 offseason.
Well, again, it's also kind of unfair to say it's a 2-for-1 deal because we know what Tatum Bethune is. He's a guy that had 108 tackles as a player last year. So far, we know between McDaniel and Terrence Lewis, they have a total of 17. So the production at least isn't there on paper. We know what Tatum is. And so from a trade standpoint, I don't know if we get value out of that. But obviously, we need depth. We saw the linebackers get completely obliterated last year. We know that JJB was out for a period of time. He came back. Obviously, we lost Eric Gilliard to the portal, Bryson Armstrong to a knee. We had John Powell, who was a converted defensive back, essentially playing linebacker at the latter part of the season. So that was definitely a position of need, of depth. Now, I don't know if T. Will and Gus were counting on losing one when they were trying to find others, but this is the transfer portal era. We're gonna get guys, we're gonna lose guys. The world was falling apart when we knew Tatum Bethune was leaving, and then today there's nothing but nitro fire GIF emojis all over Twitter. So it's just the way the world works at this point.
It's a roller coaster, man, and we're gonna add a quarterback too, right?
There's talk.
Almost a done deal?
It hasn't been announced yet, but absolutely there's talk. We'll get to that.
Plumlee?
It's on the rundown. That's on the rundown. Yeah, we got it.
All right. Yeah, man, the transfer portal is going to be wild. I can't wait. It's a happening place to be, and we're right in the middle of it. We're very active in the portal.
Very, very active in the portal. Well, the other guy we actually got in the portal this past week as well, defensive back Kobe Perry. He was at Austin P. He's a 6 foot, 174-pound safety, 3-star player out of high school. He was at a community college in 18. Went to Troy for a year, which is the place that our new OC Chip Lindsey was actually head coach. He did not actually play at Troy, and then spent these last seasons at Austin P. He was the first team safety for the Ohio Valley Conference, Mike. Last year, 85 tackles, 2 interceptions, including a pick 6. 8 tackles for a loss and a sack, but again, in the Ohio Valley Conference. DB and secondary was a position I think we were pretty strong in, obviously, but Gus dips in and wants to add this kid, so he must see some value in bringing him on board.
The Ohio Valley Conference plays some damn serious football, and I think you should give it the respect that it deserves, personally.
No, sorry.
I don't like the way you said Ohio Valley. But anyway, this kid, I mean, that he's got the connection with the coach, so the favors are done a lot. But to give him a scholarship, he'd have to be a pretty good player. This coach obviously knows something about him. He was the player of the Ohio Valley Conference, player of the year. So give him a shot, man. I think he's going to be okay. But like you said, we have depth. The guys in the secondary looked like they were getting a lot better towards the end of the year. Hodges and all those guys. And then you got the Henderson twins coming in. You got what you think is a pretty deep position in the secondary as it is.
Yeah, I mean, for all intents and purposes, if you look at the defense last year, we ostensibly played a 4-2-5, right? I mean, we essentially had Justin Hodges as that night position, whatever they call that. And so we essentially played 5 DBs, although I guess Hodges was kind of like a floater. Previously, that was Bryson Armstrong's role. So I don't know if that's where they see Kobe Perry. He's kind of undersized, 6 foot 175. Hodges is 6'2", 175. Quadric Bullard, our other starting safety, is 6 foot 170. So he's a tad undersized. He's not bigger than those guys, I guess. So, but he's got more experience. Maybe he's going to contend for that night spot, or maybe he just gives some depth from that night spot. But yeah, you'd have thought secondary was a position that we were at least good with. But I guess you never know. Maybe a whole new defensive scheme is dreamed up next year. Maybe with new linebackers, maybe we try something different. Who the heck knows? So 3 portal entries for sure: McDaniel, Lewis, and Perry. And then the rumor mill, Mike, is hot and heavy right now. John Reese Plumlee. He is a quarterback turned wide receiver from Ole Miss. 2019 was the starting quarterback there, and then switched to receiver where he's played the last couple seasons. Very little stats to speak of, Mike. But I actually had to do like a double or triple take when I looked up his 2019 stats. And I think this is right, but he played 9 games. He only threw 150 passes, 910 yards, 4 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. But if I have this right, he ran for over 1,000 yards and 12 touchdowns. So clearly he's more of a runner based on this analysis than he would be a thrower. But he's somebody that he's in the portal, and as soon as he put his name in, every recruiting service out there was basically saying there's a lot of talk about UCF, Mike. So are you excited about the John Reese Plumlee possibilities as a potential new quarterback at UCF?
Well, I didn't look up his stats, but I did see a highlight video of this kid, and it backs up everything you just said.
Okay.
Because there maybe were 10 highlights, let's call it, on the video. 8 of them were his runs, and long runs for touchdowns. Nice. I mean, the kid is fast. He also plays center field for the baseball team. He can run, and he's running past people, and that's how he's scoring all these long touchdowns. And then there were maybe 2 throws in that whole highlight video, passing touchdowns. It seemed like they were down 4 touchdowns in every one of these highlights, down 2 or 3 touchdowns. Mississippi was, but he's definitely an athlete. And if Gus wants to run a system, can you imagine this guy running back there with Bowser and Johnny Richardson next year, and all the new recruits we got coming in at running back? I mean, McDonald, we'll just be running like the triple option, I think, all day, and it's O'Keefe on an end around every once in a while. Gus is going to lose his mind with his running options.
Watch out, Navy. We're about to outrun you. Yeah, I don't know how much of a thrower he is. I mean, this has a little bit of that that Joey Gatewood stench to it, where can he actually throw the football, or is he going to be more of a runner? You would think we'd want somebody that's got a little bit more passing fancy, but obviously there's some people who think this is the move, and he's somebody we bring in, at least from a depth standpoint, Mike. I mean, he's got some experience, so maybe that helps. Maybe Gus just wants to push Mikey Keene a little bit. And obviously we have Castellanos coming in. So maybe this is just a depth play, or we think that there's a package for him. I don't know what this means for Joey Gatewood or Parker Navarro. But it seems like there's a lot of smoke on the John Reese Plumlee train, Mike. And even more has happened since you and I have been recording. I just looked this up. 2 other Auburn players have now hit the portal. Kobe Hudson, a 4-star wide receiver, has hit the portal. And then Dre Butler, he's a 4-star defensive lineman. He has hit the portal as well. So a couple Auburn guys put their name in the portal. Anytime that happens, there's obviously some Gus watch on tap there. I will say that Kobe Hudson was recruited to Auburn by Cody Burns, who is the wide receivers coach for Tennessee now. So maybe there's some stuff there, Mike. But more transfers keep popping up. The portal is going to be active. It's going to be crazy, hectic. Who the heck knows what's going to happen?
Bing bong. That's going to be the new portal sound. I'm telling you, every time somebody enters the portal and they've played at Auburn, that's the first giveaway, or somebody that Malzahn recruited. All these guys, everybody's going to think is coming to UCF. We're going to land a couple of them. But I don't know. This portal is incredible, man. I really don't know what the hell is going to happen minute to minute. Day to day, the Bethune news breaks, and now while we're recording the show, 10 other guys jumped in the portal at the same time. I don't know what to tell you about it.
Nobody does. I mean, it's going to continue to be just today alone. Caleb Williams, the quarterback from Oklahoma, got in the portal. So even though most bowl games are done now, except for I think LSU and Kansas State play sometime this week, and then obviously the national championship game coming up soon. So most schools are done. They're back in session. So there's a small window of time for guys to maybe put their name in and try to find new homes. And so this is that small window. So I suspect there'll be more activity, because the reality is, if you're dealing with a new era now, if you're at a school and you hear that your school is recruiting a guy who plays your position, are you now going in the portal, right? Is that how that's going to work? So I think there's going to be more and more movement as this continues to come on. A couple of notes though on that: UCF actually can have transfer portal guys come on campus, I think, for the next 7 days, because they start classes a little sooner. So it's a kind of an open period for transfer portal guys to come visit UCF if that's what they want to do. Rumors are out there that UCF still pursuing some depth, maybe on the old line as well. Although interesting to note, Mike, we are still waiting on 2 announcements that have not come yet, and I'm curious if you have any suspicions here. Sam Jackson and Isaiah Bowser, both of whom could come back for another season. Neither of whom have announced anything. You've seen a bunch of guys now announcing that they're going to some sort of an all-star game. They're signed with an agent. You have not seen anything out of either Sam Jackson or Isaiah Bowser. I don't know what to read into that, Mike. Do you think there's any chance we get one or both those guys back?
There's always a chance, but what these guys are probably doing is waiting to hear back what their projected grade is in the NFL draft, right? And they're getting that information. We see it with the basketball players. They enter the draft, right? So they can get evaluated, and then they pull themselves back out. But for these guys, they're going to get that grade now, I think, and then figure out what's best for them. I think they're still trying to make that decision. I mean, if they were going to leave, they should have just sent out one of those thank you things by now, right? You would think. It's been maybe, I don't know. It's only been a week since the last game.
Yeah.
But if they're coming back, they have to make an announcement. So there's no announcement of good announcements. I mean, they're coming back.
Maybe news is good news. I don't know. I think there's some legit hope that one or both these guys will come back. And obviously that would help a ton with depth on the O-line if it's Sam Jackson. You talked about the running back room already. If you added Bowser back into that room with everybody else who's coming back, and if we added a running quarterback, we're the new Navy around here. But so still some time to see what that looks like. Mike, is there a position of need that you want them to try to get in the portal? Anybody or any position specifically you'd like us to try to pick up at least 1 or 2 more guys?
I'd like a big receiver, like a possession receiver. Kind of what Brandon Johnson was for us this year. We have the speedsters. We have O'Keefe. We got the guys that can beat you deep, and then they could beat you with the screen pass and go 80 yards. But I want that big target over the middle, 3rd and 12. You need a tough catch, like a Gronkowski type guy. It doesn't have to be a tight end. It could be a big receiver, 6'3", 6'4" receiver. That'd be nice. We're filling in the linebackers, so that looks good. The secondary, I think, is going to be very strong for the next couple of years. So give me an offensive lineman. This is where I'd like more depth at. So if Sam Jackson's coming back, that's fantastic. But if he's leaving, we're going to need some more depth on the offensive line.
Yeah, because we're losing Cole Schneider for sure. So that's at least one spot we have to potentially replace. And again, if Sam Jackson comes back, that's obviously a bit of a help. But it's and we also lost Marcus Tatum on the other side, so we have at least 2 guys we're filling in. We got the kid from Jacksonville State who's coming to UCF as well. So I think O-line is probably a position. You can never have too many big, strong dudes, right? I feel like that's a good spot to be. And you're right, receiver. Who's going to kind of take over that Brandon Johnson role? Who's going to sort of be that bigger receiver? Even if it's a tight end, I guess I'd consider that, considering we lost Charlie Browder last week. So maybe that the tight end makes sense. But Gus has some time. He's missed on some, and I think everyone kind of freaks out, rightfully so. I mean, we miss on Bo Nix, which everyone thought was going to be a done deal. Pretty much every time a quarterback comes in the portal, we feel like we have a shot at him, and we haven't landed any of them just yet. So people are kind of freaking out. Even though we got Terrence Lewis, there was another linebacker, Braden Jennings, also from Maryland, who went to Kansas State, oddly enough. That smells like a money grab. And so we're going to miss out on some of these guys, Mike. But today it feels good. Yesterday the sky was falling, but today it feels good, and tomorrow may feel even better.
it's a fun roller coaster. It makes the off season a lot more fun now, I think, or at least gives us things to talk about. There's news every day, and now we got to find out the big important question: did they already talk to Lovelady, and is Plumlee starting in center field to start the season?
I imagine that's going to be part of a stipulation, I assume, right? Like if he played baseball at Ole Miss, I mean, I assume he wouldn't want to leave to just play football unless he's deciding like, hey, this is the path they want to take. But I don't. Is he good? Do you have any idea if he's a good baseball player?
I didn't look up his stats. But
Okay.
I've never seen him play, but he's starting center fielder for Ole Miss. Tells me he's probably a pretty good baseball player. And we know he's got speed. I've seen that on the football field. So he can run, he can track down the ball, I'm sure. How he hits, I have no idea. But if it's what's going to get him on the football field, I'm sure Lovelady will be told to have this guy on the baseball team. But will he be able to, like, the semester starts when? This week? Today?
I think it starts the 10th.
Okay, so they got a week.
Yeah.
Can he get in on campus next week and then be playing baseball this season? Is that possible? I'm sure he's been training for baseball, but
Probably.
possible, yes.
Probably. I mean, I guess I don't see why not. I mean, in football, Mike Hughes walked in on Tuesday and played on Saturday, right? So I feel like he could do the same. I don't know if he's been training though. They just finished the Sugar Bowl, so I don't know if he was. I know he was at I know he played in the game. I don't know if he was practicing with the baseball team in his off time or if he's solely dedicated to football at that point. So that's I don't know. I'm not quite sure how that would work, but presumably he could. Yeah, I guess.
All right. Baseball season starts soon, right? And it's like in the next couple of weeks, I would think.
Yeah.
Let me get the schedule.
Yeah. February, March, somewhere in there. Yeah. It's a couple weeks. It's a couple weeks away. Either way. So do you enjoy this transfer portal stuff though? I know you're one that you don't like recruiting. You don't like watching the underwear Olympics. You don't like reading, respect my decision tweets. Are you into the transfer portal and all sort of the drama that's around there? Cause you're typically a drama free kind of guy.
Yeah, typically I wouldn't like guys that transferred. I mean, you committed to a school. I understand everything's different now, obviously, with the NIL and just being able to get paid to play. I'd take the money too. But, it's good for the show. It's good for us, so I guess I'm for it. But if we didn't do a podcast, then I probably wouldn't like it as much.
Fair enough. Yeah, fair enough. At least it's good fodder for the offseason. So that's your football update again. Look, check back daily at this point, right? Find a way to get yourself some information. Follow some folks on Twitter. Maybe get into the dungeon if you want to do that. On the live show Thursdays, Mike, Trace, and I will try to keep you as updated as we can, but these things are changing by the minute. So when you woke up today, you probably didn't think Dylan Gabriel would be at Oklahoma and Terrence Lewis would be at UCF, and here we are. So you never quite know what's going to happen, Mike. Speaking of not knowing what's going to happen, I don't know that any of us really expected what happened last week to actually come to fruition. I'm damn glad it did, Mike. But UCF basketball takes on Michigan, who obviously is a blue blood basketball program. They are a school that had Final Four aspirations before the season started. Yeah, they haven't been playing their best ball, but by far the toughest team I think UCF had, at least from a prestige standpoint on the schedule this year. So it seemed like an uphill climb. And starting the first half, it was an uphill climb. UCF was not really in the game. At one point, they were down by 12. But somehow things turn around, Mike. And the scoreboard at the end reads UCF 85, Michigan 71. How shocked were you, or were you shocked at all, I guess, that UCF pulled out a victory against Michigan?
Well, we won that game because two guys could not miss from the field. Brandon Mahan was incredible, on fire, and Darren Green was matching them. And these guys were incredible. I think they were 8 for 8 from 3 in the second half, something stupid like that.
Yep.
I mean, they looked like Curry and Thompson out there. That's the reason we won the game. Every time they took a shot, I expected it to go in, and they did. So when you don't miss a shot, it's very easy to win basketball games. Even if you're down 12, to pull away and win by 15 points, which is what they did last week. It was awesome. It was an awesome display to watch. I haven't seen shooting like that since Matt Williams, when he hit, 8 threes in one game or something stupid. So those guys were on fire, and there was no way we could have lost that game the way they were shooting.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't look – I mean, second half was really when somehow they ended up getting – and really was Mahan, who had a pretty quiet first half. Darren Green was pretty consistent throughout. Mahan had a quiet first half, and then things looked bleak. I mean, Michigan led by 12 into the second half, and then UCF goes on a 13-point run, never looks back. You mentioned all those guys. Darren Green, 27 points, 7 of 9 from 3. Brandon Mahan, 26 points, 5 of 7 from 3. The team shot 12 of 20 on the night, and 8 for 8 in the second half. That's going to win you a lot of games. But I think there's some other hidden stats that are really interesting here, Mike. I think if you look at what we thought about what was going to happen, we thought Michigan would have a size advantage. UCF actually had more points in the paint, 26-22. They also had 16 fast break points as well. So they were at least able to hold their own on the inside. Now Michigan definitely had some offensive rebound advantages over UCF. They also had better second chance points than UCF. But overall, I mean, UCF played consistent, and we talked about Mahan and Green, but Jameel Reynolds came in, and while he didn't stuff the stat sheet, he had a pretty nice couple of minutes there on banging with guys on the inside there. And then C.J. Walker, Mike, he's not going to get a lot of pub for this. 4 points, 5 boards, 3 blocks. But in the plus and minus department, he was plus 30. He was 14 points better than his next closest guy on the team. Plus 30 for C.J. Walker. So while he didn't stuff the stat sheet, it clearly had a good impact on the game, Mike. And it was just a nice overall team win. It was good to see the the Addition Financial Dungeon place, whatever we call it, filled the capacity. And it was just a nice overall win, a surprising one. I was hopeful, but I was not planning on it. But it was definitely a nice surprise going into the weekend.
The one stat you threw out there, you know why we didn't get a lot of offensive rebounds? Because we didn't miss any shots. But yeah, it was it was surprising after we were down 12 for sure. First half we hung right there in there with them. It was an even game, 2-point game. When we go down 12, thinking about maybe it's over, and then these guys just go on an incredible run. It was great, man. It's exactly what this team needed. We talked about it coming into the season. There were 5 big non-conference games. We'd be happy with 2 wins. We would love 3. So one of them got canceled with the FSU game, and we ended up going 2-2 in those games. So yeah, we'll take that coming into the season. Going into conference play, we had already had a conference win under our belts going into that game. So it was a big win. It wasn't like storm the court big win. Michigan's not having a top 10 season like we thought they might, but it's going to prove to be a pretty good win. Just like the Miami game's proven to be a pretty big win. Miami's playing pretty well now. Yeah. So, you got to look at these things at the end of the year is when it matters. The quadrant 1 and all that stuff, do they adjust that at the end of the season too to figure out if that really was a good win? Like, you beat the number 2 team in the country in the opening week, but it turns out they're really not even a top 25 team. How does that looked at by the committee at the end of the year?
Yeah, I do think they adjust that as part of the net rating. They'll factor that stuff in, right? Because to your point, you may be terrible in non-conference, but then just tear up the ACC or something, right? So I do think that they factor all that stuff in when it comes down to the net rating at the end.
Right. The Miami game could turn out to be a quadrant 1 win. Miami goes on to win the ACC, and they're a top 25 team. We beat them on the road. That looks like a fantastic win, right? That's one that gets you in the tournament right there. And then you add in this Michigan one, which could end up being a big win for us too down the road. So, and there's going to be plenty of opportunities in conference to get big wins too. This is a very good conference.
Well, non-conference finishes up 9-3. To your point, 1 canceled against FSU. I think when you and I did this beginning of the season, I think we were hoping that we would get at least 10-4. I think is what we wanted 9-4. I think is at least what we were hoping for, or 10-3. So either way, we ended up on the right side, at least from a non-conference standpoint. And to your point, already 1 game under our belt in the conference, Mike. And we didn't have too much time to soak in the Michigan win because we turned around on Sunday and headed out to Dallas to play SMU. And things started off pretty good for the Knights and ended up pretty bad for the Knights. SMU 72, UCF 60, a tough road loss in conference. And we talked about shooting being the difference at Michigan, or with Michigan rather. Shooting was definitely the difference at SMU. Darren Green, 6 points, only 1 of 5 from 3. Darius Perry, 13 points on 4 of 17 shooting. Brandon Mahan stayed relatively lukewarm, 17 points on 3 of 7 from 3. But overall, Mike, the Knights just not shot it well. They stuck in it. They were kind of within 5 or 6 throughout the latter part of the second half. Ultimately, they just could not keep things together, and they fall down now 1-1 in conference, and obviously this one loss on the road. Mike, SMU is a fairly good team. They had some really good contributions. Two guys, specifically two brothers, continue to just kill us in that one, but a tough one at SMU, so a bit of a letdown after maybe one of the bigger wins in UCF history.
Yeah, letdown game for sure. Right, coming off the Michigan win, you saw this coming on the road in a game where there was nobody, it seemed like, at the game. Right, a very small crowd coming off the big adrenaline rush, a sold-out game against Michigan. That's one factor. But what I saw was there weren't. I mean, you got two guys, Mahan and Green, coming off a spectacular night the other night. I wanted them to feed those guys early more and see if they still have the hot hand. I didn't see them do that as much. Darren Green didn't score his first points until the second half.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think they could have found a way to get them involved more early and see if they had the hot hand and keep that thing going. But, it's not a game. I don't even think we were favored in that game, to be honest. I don't know what the spread was. I think it was.
Yeah, I don't think so.
So, I mean, we were kind of not saying expected to lose, but you knew it was going to be a tough game on the road. We're going to have a couple of those this season in this conference, like I was just talking about. The Wichita game is going to be tough. Cincinnati will probably be tough. The thing that stinks is we don't play SMU again. We don't get them at home. That's the one team that we only play once this year. Mm-hmm. Is SMU.
Yeah,
and it's a road game. We have one team that we only play at home too, I think.
Well, in the span of a week, we saw both the floor and the ceiling for UCF basketball, right? I mean, to your point, basically shooting out of their mind against Michigan, shows you how dangerous a team this can be when one or two of those guys are cooking, and when they're able to get shots. And then you saw how bad a team we can be when we can't hit shots, and we're limited offensively. So you sort of saw the Jekyll and Hyde of the UCF basketball program. Obviously, typically these things regress to the mean at some point, right? You fall somewhere in the middle. You're probably never as good as you think you are, and never as bad as you think you are. So it'll be interesting to see what level of consistency that UCF can play with. Obviously, it's probably unreasonable to think that we're going to go 8 of 8 in the second half from three, with Brandon Mahan not missing a single three-pointer in that second half. That's probably unrealistic to think about. But, how much can we stay consistent? We have a tough stretch. I've talked about it since the schedule came out. There's a tough stretch coming up later in February that really will make or break. I think we have like a 6-game stand where we got some Wichitas there. We got Houston twice in there. We have the Cows in there. I think there's a Memphis in there. And that'll ultimately kind of make or break, I think, our season. But as of right now, I think it was John Rothstein and some other guys on social media, some of the national college basketball guys, were saying UCF's for real. Like this is a good football team, or a good basketball team rather, and this is a team that could definitely challenge for our tournament spot. So can they keep it up? Now we have conference play, Mike, 1-1 to start, but I mean we need to reel off a pretty sizable, victory margin here in conference, and probably to be able to knock on that door. I think 20 wins is probably where we're at. So sitting now at 9-3, we need 11 more wins in conference. Is that something we can do? I don't know.
Yeah, I think this team can do it. This is a well-rounded team. That's what I like about it. We got the shooters in Mahan and Green. We got the big guy in Bakajang. I think that's what turned the whole game, was him getting in foul trouble against SMU.
Yeah,
he was playing well inside, making some nice little jump hooks. He was scoring in that game.
Yeah,
and then he had to miss a lot of time, and I think that's where the whole game really turned around. But he's been solid this season. So you got the big guy in the middle. The energy with C.J. Walker, you see what he brings to the court, even though he doesn't score a lot of points, plus 30 when he's on the court. You need that guy out there for defense, rebounds, and everything else he does. So I like the way this team plays. I like the depth on the team. So I think we're in for a nice season. Consistency is going to be the key, because we're going to have nights where we're not hitting shots. The nights that Mahan and Green are not hitting their shots, Perry has to be making his shots, Well, you can't have all these guys off in one night.
Well, and that's the thing. So Perry was 0 for 9 in Michigan, 6 of 8 from the free throw line. He had 7 assists, but 0 for 9, and then followed up with a 4 of 17 at SMU. So he has not been on a stretch. He was minus 17 in that SMU game. So he's definitely got to find a bit of a rhythm, right? Because to your point, we can't have all three of those guys struggling, which is ultimately what we ended up having against SMU. The kid I really like too, by the way, Mike, is Darius Johnson. He's kind of the backup point guard at this point now. He's played pretty well. He hasn't really, he's not stuffing the stat sheet. He had 4 points, 3 boards, and 4 assists against Michigan. So he's not really stuffing the stat sheet, but he's playing pretty well. I think he's playing within himself. He's not making too many stupid freshman mistakes. He seems to be under control a lot. He's getting a lot of quality minutes. I think he's gonna be really good at some point. Not the best shooter, at least, that we've seen so far, but I've been really impressed with him as a true freshman coming in and really handling point guard duties for big stretches of time at Michigan and even some time at SMU as well.
Yeah, he's getting some big minutes out there. A position we thought maybe Tony Johnson would be the guy that was going to be out there. But Darius has done well for himself. I like the way he's been playing. I'm telling you, I like a lot of good things about this team, man. You got the senior guys, the guys that have been there before, and you got these young guys. It's a nice mix. Now, Perry could ever get hot, that's the one thing. He's in a slump right now, but he's got to shoot his way out of it, right? Imagine if all 3 of those guys are hot in one game. We saw 2 guys in one game. Imagine a third. Imagine Perry's hitting, instead of 0 for 9 against Michigan, he's hitting 6 for 9.
Yeah.
To go along with the other guys. Then what do you have on your hands? You have a team that can really do some damage in a good conference, and I think make the big tournament. Yeah. That's my expectation still for this team, even after this loss to SMU.
Yeah, obviously Perry, 4 of his last 26 doesn't help. But I will say this, Mike, in the Michigan game, even though he was not hitting shots down the stretch, he was not afraid to continue to drive the ball and draw contact, and ended up going to the line a bunch. Again, finishes 6 of 8 from the line. And obviously in late game situations, the ability to get to the free throw line and then make your free throws are huge. I mean, he obviously did that against Michigan. Now, he didn't have to do that as much against SMU. But if he, as long as he's going to be consistent in that realm, I mean, I think he's always been a bit of a streak shooter. And not that Green and Mahan aren't as well. I think that's the only negative about all this is these guys are probably streak shooters. I guess Darren would be the most, the most consistent of these 3. But the other ones, to your point, Mahan, I mean, he's liable to put up a 1 for 10, next game out, right? And then he's going to go back and go 9 for 10. So that's what you're going to have to live with is you live by streak shooting, you die by streak shooting. It pays off at Michigan, didn't pay off against SMU. Hopefully it pays off on Wednesday, Mike. Temple, we are going to welcome them into Orlando. Obviously, we already beat them once, 65-48. And that was on the road. So you hope that we can continue this string here and get our first home conference win of the season.
You would think so. We saw how we handled them at their place. We should be able to come here and beat them up pretty good again. When we looked at the schedule, you mentioned that 5-6 game stretch later on. We were counting on this part of the schedule to be the softer part. The early part of conference play was the games we thought we were going to win. The 2 against Temple. We figured we'd probably win the SMU game, but we lost that one. So the first couple here are very important. We have to win these few games to set up that tough game stretch down the road.
Yeah, so after Temple, we have Tulsa at home, Memphis at home, and then we are away at the Cows and away at ECU, and then home for Tulane. So that should be a stretch. Memphis will be a game. The Cows, you never know. They're not playing fantastic, but obviously a rivalry thing, that could be a game. So this is a stretch here, Mike, where there's a bunch of winnable games coming in here. And so of the next, 6 games, in my mind, we got to go 5-1 here. So Temple, Tulsa, Memphis, Cows, ECU, and Tulane. We got to go 5-1 on that stretch, in my opinion.
Yeah, they're home games too. You got to win the ones at home for sure. Memphis, I believe, is the other team that we don't play twice. We only play them once. We don't have to go to Memphis.
No, they're twice.
So, they're twice? I don't know who the other team is.
Let me see if I can eyeball this for you. I think that's it, actually. Temple. Tulane twice, so Tulsa twice. Cincinnati.
Cincinnati. We play them at home.
Yeah.
There it is. Yeah. That's the one. So, all right, Memphis is going to be a tough one. But, like I said, there's a bunch of tough ones. This conference is good. And if you think this conference is good, wait till we join the Big 12. Have you seen that conference?
I have. Well,
and you add in the best teams from this one with Houston and Cincinnati and then BYU. That's going to be a hell of a basketball conference over there.
And after that 6-game stretch, this is where it picks up. So we have Wichita away, home Houston, home Cows, away Memphis, home Wichita, away Houston, home ECU, home Cincinnati. So that's where that stretch, 2 Houston games in there, 2 Wichita State in there, and then the Cows and Memphis again on the replay. So that's where that stretch gets really bad. 2 Houstons, 2 Wichitas, And so the next 6 after this first 6, I think this will make or break the season. But if we can go 5-1 in this next 6, I think I'll feel really good about going to that next 6. But it's really going to be a tale of these next couple of months here, and whether or not we can stay consistent and win the games we're supposed to win, and then eke out some of these tough ones. Last year we got bit a few different times, but at the buzzer, just making dumb plays, dumb decisions. So can we keep that up somehow, and actually close games? I think that'll be key for us.
Yeah, closing games has been a strong part because of our free throw shooting. We're still a good free throw shooting team. So it's all going to depend on if our guys are hot. We're a shooting team. We're going to live and die by the threes. If our guys are hitting them, we can hang with any team in this country. I believe that. We could be a very exciting team come tournament time, with some nice, exciting games, just shooting the lights out of the ball. Or they can just go ice cold, and we can lose to SMU, and we can lose to the Cows, and we can lose to a bunch of other teams on the schedule. So it's going to be a wild ride, too. This is like the transfer portal. Basketball season, hold on to your seats. I think Johnny's got this team in the right direction, though. I think this is going to be a good year. Talk to me again next week, and I'll let you have an update.
All right, we'll talk to Mike again next week to get his current status of the UCF basketball program, Mike. But coming up, Austin Camden, again, a name you might not know, but a guy who's been with the program 5 years, walk on, definitely gave his blood, sweat, and tears, has a lot of interesting perspectives about the different things. He was a part of 3 coaching staffs. We unearthed Mike. He may be one of the only handful of guys who can say they're 5-0 against the Cows. Which not many guys can say on the football side. So stick around for that. Again, we recorded this one via video, so the audio may sound a little different, so bear with us if it doesn't sound like it usually does. And make sure you also check out the YouTube portion. At some point, we'll put that video up of the interview. So Austin Camden's next. Mike and I are going to take a quick break, find out if Dylan Gabriel transferred again, and we'll tell you all that when we come back. Sons UCF.
This is UCF head football coach Gus Malzahn, and you should listen to the Sons of UCF like your hair is on fire. Go Knights and charge on.
All right, our guest tonight has literally been a part of everything on the upswing of UCF since 2017, and he finally, his eligibility has come in, but we're glad to grab him for one final time here to talk about his career at UCF. Austin Camden, UCF defensive lineman, on the show this night. Austin, first off, thanks for taking the time and joining us on the Sons of UCF.
I appreciate y'all reaching out to me and bringing me on the podcast in general.
Looking forward to chatting with you tonight. So let's start here. I read that you originally were committed to FAU and then had a change of heart and decided to come to UCF. Why was UCF the right place for you?
Okay, so a little bit of background on that story, actually. I was originally committed to FAU, correct. When they fired Coach Partridge, my scholarship got taken away from me. So
okay.
I publicly said I'm going to decommit, but realistically, I didn't have the opportunity to even sign or even go to FAU. But UCF was just the next closest thing. I kind of did it on a whim. Wasn't sure really what was going to happen. Asked my coach to reach out to the coaches at UCF. He reached out to Coach Becton. Coach Becton called me within 2-3 weeks of me applying to UCF and said, "Hey, do you want to walk onto the team? You put that in your admissions essay." And I said, "Yes, I 100% want to walk onto the team. Whatever you need, I do not care. I just want to be able to go and help."
What about the school did you like? Obviously, you said it was close to you, but was there something specific about the football program? Obviously, Scott Frost had been there for about a year at that point in time. Anything specifically about the program that kind of drew you to UCF?
I really wanted to be able to play in front of my family to where they didn't have to actually like travel that far. I'd been to a couple UCF games as when I was in middle school and high school. Never thought I'd be able to play in front of a crowd, but I said, if I'm going to walk on and I get to play, I'm going to be able to play in front of my family and friends and they don't have to go anywhere. So I was ready to make an impact where I could, realistically.
Well, that first season, 2017, you were on the scout team. So, Austin, what's the life of a scout team member? What is that life like week in and week out? Obviously, every Saturday we see guys suiting up and playing. Scout team, obviously, a little different. What's the scout team life like?
It's a lot of hard work, honestly. you basically have the same program as the older guys who have been there for seasons upon seasons, and they're the ones starting in their jobs. But you're in at 7:00, just like they are, going through meetings, learning everything you possibly can about, especially when I was on scout team offense, I was learning everything I could about the other team's offense that I maybe saw in film and be like, okay, well, I'm going to do this in practice the way they're doing it. That way, if our defensive guys catch on to something really quick, they're going to see it in a game and be like, oh, hey, they're running this play, get here, like we did in practice. So it's a grind and a struggle, to say the least.
That first year is an incredible year to join the program. We're undefeated, and we go into the Peach Bowl, perfect season on the line, and all the coaches are leaving. How weird is that going into that final game of the year?
It was the absolute weirdest time to be a student athlete, 100%. In fact, a little story that I don't think a lot of people know about is, I think it was that first day that all the coaches were back, and we were supposed to go, I believe the schedule said we were supposed to go full pads. Shaquem, Pitt, and a couple other guys went, no, it's a Thursday practice. We're going no sweat Thursday. What do you think we're doing? No, we're not going full pads. So we all showed up in helmets in our little practice pants and our practice jerseys. And Coach Frost ripped us a new one. And we practiced the entire practice like we would normally, except really no music, not a lot of fun. Everything was all business and serious. And then at the end of practice, he ran us. We had like 5 full gassers, and by number 3, we were all tired, to say the least. But he talked to us after that practice and was like, "Hey, I came here from a flight that didn't get in till 6:00 this morning. Like, I flew overnight to see you guys, to coach you guys." And then after that, we knew, okay, actually, he's not leaving just for himself and some money. He's leaving because he thinks it's the best decision, but he loves us, and we're going to fight for him. And I think after that, it solidified our run to the Peach Bowl and the victory in our minds already.
When he's telling you guys to run those gassers, how many of you were like, screw you, dude, you're not even going to be here next year. You're not my boss anymore.
I think a lot of us, a decent amount, were thinking that in our heads, but ultimately we were like, we got to get through this because he's still our coach.
Right. So when a new coaching staff is coming in, what effect does that have on you? What are you trying to do to prepare yourself for the new staff, not knowing who it's even going to be?
So it's kind of weird because you can't really, even if like one of your coaches has a good word about you and says it to the new coach could come in and be like, I don't believe what he said. So I just kind of, went through practice in the Peach Bowl, just completely like any other practice that season, had a lot of fun, ran what I could, worked my tail off. And then as soon as the new coaches came in, I was like, okay, I'm making a good impression now. I'm working my tail off. And that's a continual thing I did all 5 years. Put my head down to the grindstone and just start working.
Well, you saw the field for the first time as a player in that 2018 season, so obviously that hard work paid off. No more scout team for you. What was your emotions like that first time? Were you nervous? Were you anxious? Were you just excited? What was the first time you got to run onto the field at the bounce house?
That was something else, honestly. That first time I actually got to see the field during a game, it was South Carolina State. I didn't think I was going to get in at all. But I kind of had a talk with Coach Burnham earlier in the week, and I said, hey, my grandfather's going to be watching. It's his birthday. And he was really sick at the time, and we didn't know from what, so we weren't sure what was going to happen. So I said, hey, Coach Burnham, if at all, can I get like 1 or 2 plays? I don't really care where it is. I just want to say I got to play and my grandfather got to watch. So he said, hey, warm up. It was like the second quarter. And I was like, I'm not going to get in. Third quarter came and he's like, you warm? I'm like, yeah, stay by my side. I was like, okay. Then fourth quarter came ultimately, and he said, "Okay, go in." I was like, "What?" Like out of the blue, like first, like we had just like I think we kicked off, and he said, "Okay, you ready?" I'm like, "What? Go!" I'm like, okay, just after I said what, I just ran on the field. Say the least, I was nervous because I didn't know what was going to happen. I'd studied my plays all week, studied the film all week. Was like, I got this when I can go in and will go in. And then the first play happened, and that was kind of fun to say the least, except for the fact that I tackled the wrong guy. So I think we were lined up in like a field defense, so the 3 technique was toward the field, and I took the couple hard steps I needed to get off the ball. It parted like the Red Sea. I grabbed the running back because it was one of those like triple option plays. They're supposed to read me and then go from there. I grabbed the running back. It didn't feel like he had the ball, so I threw him to my side, grabbed the quarterback. I'm like, something's wrong here. I turn around. I think it was Nate Evans behind me making the play. And I went, dang it. And I was like, I was happy that I got to play, but I was kind of disappointed I didn't make a play my first time. But, it's easily a mix of emotions playing in front of the bounce house like it is. The amount of noise is absolutely crazy. And I can't figure out another place that would be better to play at.
All right, so you mentioned the atmosphere of the bounce house. Which games really stick out in your mind? I know there's a few of them, especially during 2017, 2018, even this past year. But any big games stick out to you as the craziest atmosphere games?
Yeah, 100%. 2018 Cincinnati College game day. That was at the bounce house. You can't get any better than that in my mind. What was it, like the first 4 like snaps on Cincinnati? Delay of game, false start, delay of game again, or something like that. They took them 4 times to get 1 snap off to start the game, like that. Yeah. And there's a whole bunch of games where you can tell the commentators are like, what is going on? They can see the camera bouncing up and down because people are just absolutely losing their minds. And that feeling is just infectious, 100%. There's no other stadium in Florida that could do that.
Now, you guys are not allowed to, you're not staying on campus that day, right? So you have no idea what it's like at 6 o'clock in the morning on campus, or you get to even watch game day that day or no?
No, we got to see a little bit of it. So in like the way meetings work on game day, like we'll be at the team hotel, we'll get breakfast, do like walkthroughs and walk through a meeting, and then they'll give us a little bit of free time. In my free time, I was watching College game day, just because I was like, I want to see what this is. And you could just see Memory Mall was just a sea of UCF, and then like a whole bunch of other people who were coming by to hold up signs, and it was absolutely crazy. Kind of wish I was there, but I was with the team, so I can't say anything else after that.
All right, so that season was another awesome one. We lose at the end. Then we go into 2019, coming off 2 years where we were undefeated in the regular season, and we have a few really tough losses. Which one of those losses hurt you the most? Was it the Pittsburgh one? Was it Cincinnati? Was it Tulsa? Take us through some of those games.
So Pitt kind of hurt me because it was like, I think it was 4th and 1 or 4th and 5, whatever it was. And then we had a defensive lineman jump off sides. So that hurt a lot because it's like, it's a guy in your position group that you have a whole bunch of trust in. All of a sudden, it's like one play can cause a game to go south. And unfortunately, it was us that one play. That one stung. Cincy didn't really, and then Tulsa also stung pretty hard too. And all those games we lost by a combined total of 7 points, which is just that overall hurt more than probably anything that entire season.
Well, 2020 didn't get any easier for you, Austin. So we start off with a quick little global pandemic to start off 2020. We've had a few guys on last season, and we had Marlon and Greg and a bunch of those guys, Trey Nixon, kind of talking through the challenges that they face kind of going through a pandemic, obviously trying to get ready for football season, not really knowing if you're going to play. Obviously, some guys, kind of playing and opting out at the last minute. What was that like for you? Take us through kind of that early 2020 year and how you were staying in shape and sort of what your thoughts were preparing for a season, not knowing if you'd ever really have a season.
So, really to stay in shape, I was actually working the entirety of college. I've actually worked at Publix by my parents' house in the back room, doing a lot of grocery work. So hauling pallets, putting stuff on carts, bringing it out in shelves. So I was keeping in shape with weightlifting that way, generally. And then I was running outside of that just to keep a little bit of cardio going because I didn't know what was going to happen. We had that quote unquote 2-week break off in March because we didn't know how spring break was going to end. And then next thing you know, it's like, okay, you're not coming back for the rest of school. You're not going to do this. You're not going to do that. And it became to a point where I'm just like, what is going to happen? But I got in the mindset, okay, stay ready. That way you don't have to get ready. So I was doing everything I could outside of, actually being able to go to a gym just to stay in shape. And then we finally get the call, hey, we're going to start bringing people back in beginning of June. Okay. Middle of June, beginning of July, mid-July. And they start rolling people back periodically. And unfortunately, I was in the last group, so that it was kind of sucky, but I got through it. And then we're like 3 days out from camp. And we have a team meeting. They kind of go through like, hey, this is how we're going to have meetings and stuff, blah, blah, blah. Oh, hey, by the way, all the athletes stay on the Zoom call. We got Greg wants to talk to you real quick. And myself, when we signed a whole bunch of the forms to come back, I didn't know there was a liability release form from the school saying, hey, if you catch COVID, it's not our fault. But that's how it was just to even come back on campus. Then they sent us that form out after Greg brought it up, like, hey, this isn't okay. Like, the only reason that we'd ever catch COVID was if we came back to campus. And the only reason we'd come back to campus is them. So if they're not looking out for us, why should we even play? And that was the whole, like, I think a couple ESPN articles were like, oh, UCF is like doing a full team mutiny on that. But we were realistically concerned about our own health because we didn't know we still really don't know what the long-term implications of catching COVID down the road are. Like, could catch COVID now in 20 years, something happens that was COVID related that you have no idea about. And that's what we were worried about because we didn't know a lot. And then they brought a lot of the doctors from Orlando Health on to help us out, to help us understand what was going on and what the precautions were and how they were trying to get us to a point where we could play and not have to really worry about COVID. So that was just crazy to begin with, even before fall camp started. COVID derailed a whole season, and that was just not the fun year of 2020, to say the least.
Yeah, much was made. UCF was one of the leaders in the nation that year with opt-outs. I think there was 10 guys who opted not to play. Do you think some of the things you guys were talking about led to some of those guys making decisions to maybe sit out the year?
No, I knew. Partially yes, but partially no. One of the guys who really opted out, Tay Gowan, cornerback. Who, shoot, does he? My brain is.
He's with the Eagles now.
Okay, I wasn't he? He was with another team before.
Yeah, he was with Arizona. He got traded to Philadelphia.
Okay, yeah.
Season, yeah.
Well, I don't know if he mentioned it, but I found out he was opting out, and I shot him a message. I'm pretty sure I shot him a message. I'm like, hey man, you do what's best for you and your daughter. I know you care about her 100%. Make sure your family is safe. I am not going to complain. You are my brother, and I will support you 100%. And those guys who did opt out, I try to message them as much as I could, going, hey, I'm here to support you. Let me know what I can do. You're making the best decision for yourself and your health. Me, I was just like, I want to play, and this might be my only opportunity to play in multiple games in a season. So I full-fledged went into it no matter what. And no, it was guys make the best decision for themselves, especially in the case of opt-outs. And I don't think it really hurt us. They were just making the best option for their future and their families. So,
well, that whole season, obviously, you talk about COVID, but there was a lot of ups and downs on the field as well. Close loss to Memphis, a loss to Cincy and Tulsa again. And then towards the end of the season, a bunch of guys got kicked off the team for some stuff, outside of football. You were at that point an upperclassman of the team. You're a third-year guy in the program. What were you and the other leaders trying to do to keep the team together? Obviously, just a lot of turmoil. Take us kind of in your mind as a leader. What were you trying to do to make sure everyone kind of stood together and tried to finish strong?
I think at the point where a couple of the guys got in trouble and let go from the team, we kind of lost our identity right there of who we were as players and, who we were as a team. And then Greg really led the charge to bring us all back together and focus up saying, hey, we've got a couple more games left. Let's play for each other. Let's get this gone. Let's send the seniors out the best way we can. And, we tried our best with what we had left.
Yeah, I mean, some of those losses were still close. You mentioned the year before, a total of 7 points with 3 losses. 2020, a bunch of close games too. But then we get to the Boca Bowl. What the heck happened in the Boca Bowl? That was just a disaster.
I think at that point, some of the guys especially were like, hey, some of these schools are opting out. Why don't we opt out? Nobody really brought it up. The team was kind of split, to say the least. Guys wanted to go home and see their families because they hadn't seen them in over 6 months. Some of the guys who were first coming back in June hadn't seen their families. Some of their family members had gotten COVID and gotten really sick, and some of the family members had passed away, and relatives had passed away, and friends that we knew had passed away because of COVID. And I think everyone just wanted to go home and see their family. Like, a lot of people wanted to go home and see their families. I was probably one of the only couple guys that were like, hey, I really want to play. So let's try to work our tail off just so that way we don't get stomped on. And that didn't really work out too well.
All right, so after that season's over, you're getting ready for the next season. And out of nowhere, really, the news breaks that Heupel is leaving. He's going to Tennessee. When did you get the news? When did you hear about it? Wasn't there a team meeting or something the day before, the day of? How did that whole thing go?
So what a lot of people don't know is after 2020, I wanted to walk away from football. I didn't know where my mind was in general. Like, if I wanted to continue and play a 5th year with a team or try to transfer to somewhere else. But I knew at that moment I just wanted to help the team the best way I knew how. And so I became a strength and conditioning intern with Coach Schmidt and Coach Young just to, help the guys through their off-season weightlifting program and kind of see where I wanted to be, because I graduated in the spring of 2021. So I just only had a couple months left. I'm like, okay, I don't know what's going on. The day that happened, the night before, they had a team meeting on Zoom, from what I'm told. And Coach Heupel kind of preached, hey, we're together. We're a family. Let's get this, like, a lot of like team bonding, team unity. We'll get this. Let's start working now and work our tail off. And then they had an emergency meeting in the morning, or some sort of meeting Wednesday morning. And one of the guys put in the Zoom chat, when were you going to tell us you were going to Tennessee? And it was like, what? Then they had an emergency meeting at I think that the meeting on Zoom was at 7:30. The emergency meeting happened at 8. And by 8:10, everything for the rest of the week was canceled because nobody had any idea what was going on. To say the least, it shocked everyone, and we felt betrayed, ultimately.
Did you guys ever have a chance to talk to Heupel after that, or one-on-one or anything?
I don't. After the team meeting, he literally left, and they had somebody else clean out his office, I believe. He was just said, hey, I think he just basically said, hey, I'm doing this for the best interest of my family. Wish you guys luck, and then left.
All right. So the administration at the time, they're going to hire a new coach. They can't waste too much time. But there was talks, maybe they were talking to some of the players. Did they ever sit down with you or anybody that you know of? Did they discuss what kind of direction you guys wanted to go in?
I believe when the university ended up hiring Terry, our AD, which it's funny, he prefers everyone to call him Terry because he likes a one-on-one basis. He's probably the best AD in the country, 100% on that. But I think he did talk to a couple guys about like, hey, what are you looking for in a coach? I think names got thrown around. I personally was not part of that. So I can't speak on that, unfortunately. But, Terry ended up then hiring someone he knew, which is Coach Malzahn, someone he had worked with at Arkansas State and literally was ready to get going. And it was very much a surprise to me that Coach Malzahn ended up coming to UCF, to say the least.
Yeah, what was your reaction when news is breaking? Obviously, Gus Malzahn's coming in. Were you kind of, concerned? Obviously, you don't know what he's going to do. I mean, as a defensive guy, Randy Shannon was there still as an interim coach. Obviously, you wonder what that relationship like. So was that exciting? Were you kind of confused or kind of nervous about what the future was?
Well, again, at the time, I was a strength staff intern. So Coach Malzahn was there a couple weeks, and I got to see how the guys, the spark that a lot of guys didn't have was ignited, and they were ready to work no matter what. And that made me want to come back. But yeah, I was very confused on what was going on and like how a whole defensive system was going to set in. But ultimately, when I was able to come back on the team, when Coach Malzahn let me, I was ready to get going and hit the ground running, because that was he brought a confidence and a swagger that I hadn't seen since Coach Frost. So I was really ready to get it going, to say the least.
What was your first impressions of meeting T. Will? He looks like a guy who's got like an IV drip of Red Bull going at all times, pretty high energy. What was your first impression when you got a chance to meet T. Will?
When I got to meet Coach T. Will, it was basically more of a one-on-one scenario of me asking him to come back. Me asking him permission to come back onto the team and play on his defense. He didn't really know much about me, but he was like, "Do you want to work? Yes. Are you ready to work? Yes. Okay. We'll see you tomorrow for the 6 a.m. run, and you better be coming to work." He was all about, it's a bottom line business, and I got to see you work to make sure you can back up what you say. But yes, very high energy, but that's what makes him a really fun coach to be around.
How'd you do with those runs? Did you have a good stamina the next day?
Yeah, I actually did. It's probably because my legs were fresh comparatively to a couple of my other D linemen. They started calling me Captain America because I would run and run and run until at the end of the workout, I was either like huffing and puffing or I was thrown up, because all I did was I literally would just run as hard as I could, no matter what the amount was. And it was bad for me sometimes, but it was ultimately, it showed like, hey, I'm willing to work until I puke. And then if I have to puke and rally, I'll puke and rally.
What would you say the biggest differences in the styles of the defense from T. Will to Randy Shannon?
Styles of defense. Now that's a really good question. I'm not going to lie. I've never really thought about it that way. At least from the defensive line perspective, it's not too different. The technique may be a little bit different here and there, but the overall idea for the defensive line was pretty much still the same. We were supposed to attack the line, engage, find our target, and then go from there. And then the blitzes weren't too complicated. Everything was pretty cut and dry. The only people who really had to worry about stuff were linebackers, because they're the ones who had to make sure the safeties and the corners were set in the way they needed to be, and also they were set ready to run or go to the pass as soon as possible.
What about the differences in styles of practice between Malzahn and Heupel? I'm picturing Heupel just being basically a conditioning practice, running up and down the field, or are they pretty similar in the meetings and things like that?
So you're not wrong on that. Coach Heupel, I would generally say our practices were about 26, 27 periods long. It was, and there was no like kind of like small breaks in between to get water. Your rest break was your time in between your drills. So you could do a footwork drill real quick, get to the back of the line. You had time to, you had like maybe 20 seconds or so to get water before you're up there again. And then Coach Malzahn was more structured. Like everyone's on the same structure. Like these, it was clearly obvious what period we were on and what we were doing, because the buzzer would start and the period would sound. This is what we're doing. Go. And we were lucky enough because we would work our tail off for the first 10 periods, have like a minute and a half water break real quick, get back to it. And then right before we would do team crossover stuff, we'd also have another minute and a half to 2 minute break before we actually competed against each other on the team scale. So a lot more rest time and time to recover and think about what we were doing rather than with Coach Heupel.
Minute and a half doesn't even seem like that long, though. I mean, I guess when you compare it to 2 seconds.
You'd be very surprised, to say the least. Like, once everyone gets to the little designated quote-unquote rest area, they'll start the period, play a little bit of music, and about 45 seconds in, you're like, okay, are we going on? Are we going to be here much longer? And then by that minute and a half, you're like, okay, that was way too long, almost. Because just the way we were ready to work, say late, to speak on that.
Austin, coming into that season, we talked a lot on our show about how we thought the defensive line was going to be really the strength of the unit, right? Obviously, you have yourself, you have Cam Good, you have Josh Telescar, Trayvon Moore-Sprash, you brought in Barber and Big Cat as transfers, Keenan Hester, young guys. It seemed like you guys had a ton of depth and a ton of talent on that D-line. Did you guys think that as well coming in? Did you look at your fellow D-line mates and say, man, this is going to be the best unit we've had, or maybe the best unit you've been a part of at your time at UCF?
Yeah, we were talking about that in the spring when we all came back at the end. We're like, this is going to shape up to be a really good D line. We hadn't met Big Cat just yet, but we had the opportunity to work with him in the summer, and we're like, this is going to be a crazy D line. And we all knew as soon as we got the system down, like, oh, we have a really good opportunity to be the best in the country. And for individual performance, some of us were really like outshined. Like Keenan Hester, amazing in my mind, amazing breakout season for him. KD, unfortunately, his season ended a little too soon for my liking, but he still had like a really good solid season. Cam Good.
Is he the fastest D lineman? He seems like he's fast. I don't know. I have no idea why. I watch him play, and I feel like he's always running. Is he fast, or is that like deceptive?
So Cam is quick. He's agile. Off the ball, he is quick. But now you tell him to run 50 yards in one direction straight. I don't know if he's the fastest guy we got. But he is off the ball. I think, honestly, it's him and Anthony Montalvo are probably the two quickest off the ball. When they have their feet set the way they want to, they're the two of the fastest guys we have off the ball. Keenan Hester is one of the most powerful guys we have off the ball. Same with Ricky. Ricky Barber's got this, I call it old man strength, even though he's younger than me. He just it's just his strength that he can just come off the ball, jack somebody up, and then go to the net, and then rip off and make the tackle. But they got a really good set of returning guys this next year. So I'm looking forward to see what my brothers can do, and I will be cheering them on the best way I know possible.
Well, like I said, you guys worked all summer long, and then the opening day is finally here, Austin. We're all excited. Boise State, Thursday night, primetime game. Everybody's just jacked up, can't wait. And then, boom, 3-hour delay. Lightning, storms, everything. What the heck are you guys doing in those 3 hours? Are you guys practicing? Are you sleeping? Take us in the locker room while you guys are just waiting for that damn thunder to stop and that lightning.
We had a pre-game. What we would do is we'd go out, we'd do a walk of the field, and then at the 50-yard line we do a prayer, and then we'd go inside, and then groups would slowly go out to warm up, and I'd just gotten taped, got my cleats on, was about to go out, and they said, "Hey, lightning delay, go back inside." I was like, "Okay, cool." And then it just kept happening. And at one point, we were all ready to throw our we all had our shoulder pads on, ready to go out. And they said, "Hey, another lightning delay. It's probably going to be like an hour." I took my pads off. I took my shoulder pads off. I used them as like a pillow or a cushion just to lay on the ground a little bit, listen to some music, talk about different schemes with Montalvo and see what was the best option that we could for Boise to, make sure we had our hand placement right and ready to go. And then just kept going. And at one point, all of our guys were like, "Yeah, let's listen to music. Let's just kind of hang out, take a nap, still try to be locked in as much as we can." And then we finally got going, and then we were all ready to go because that was annoying.
Well, Mike and I are proud to say we were one of the, I don't know how many people ended up there, but we were there till 1:24 in the morning watching that victory. And for those people who were there, I mean, it was such a cool atmosphere because it was, it was a small crowd. Everybody had been waiting for tailgating for like hours and hours and hours. So everyone was all hyped up. What was that atmosphere like that night? I know in the crowd, we were all yelling and screaming and cheering because it was such a small number. But for you guys on the field, how much did the crowd help you guys that night? How much was that atmosphere just so unique just based on all the circumstances?
All the circumstances, it almost seemed like it was another 2020 season with the amount of people who were in the stands, but we still fed off that energy because everyone who was in the stands brought a whole bunch of energy that we then fed off of. And also we were kind of pissed off, to say the least, even though we can't control the weather, and we're like, we're going to make these guys feel it.
Yeah.
Well, they made us feel it 21-0 to start that game. They gave us an extra 3 hours of drinking time. I wasn't complaining. So while you were taking a nap on your shoulder pads, I was down in some cervezas.
Yeah, you sure was.
But let's get to the Louisville game a couple weeks later.
Ooh.
Back and forth, down to the very end. So many injuries in that game. Have you ever seen a game where that many of your guys get hurt in once?
No, I have actually never been a part of a game like that, and that was definitely hard to see and hard to watch. I think Ricky went down first quarter in that game. Then we had Jeremiah go down with, I believe, a concussion. Corey Thornton go down with, I believe, a concussion, and then I think Justin went down, or one of our other defensive guys. That was just hard to be a part of because I don't like when my teammates get hurt, and that just hurt completely.
Yeah, that was a rough one. And I think even harder was the Navy game after that. Now, that's a game that it still drives me nuts. I know you're rolling your eyes at that one. But that's a team, you know what they're going to do. You guys are preparing for their running all week, and they're still able to do it to us. Take us through that whole disaster of a game.
Yeah, disaster of a game is right when you say that there, Mike. But we knew what they were going to do. Yeah, Navy's always won the triple option. We prepared for it the best way we could. The discipline that they had on their special teams was absolutely crazy. And I think that's what the turning point of the game was. That first punt that was blocked. And we might have been in a lull up to that point and went, holy crap, we might lose at one point. And we tried to fight back as best we could. With it being Mikey's first game at a level like that, I know it was hard on him. And there was a lot of pressure on him from a lot of other teammates. Hey, make sure you get your stuff right. And I don't think we should have done that to him, especially on a game that, again, was his first actual start in college. It was just, as a player's perspective, that was just the hard game to be a part of.
You mentioned pressure. You mentioned pressure on Mikey going to that game. Was there just a lot of pressure from the team, kind of giving him pointers? Do you think just a lot being thrown at him, a lot of guys in his ear trying to tell him different things?
Yeah, I think there was a lot of guys trying to tell him different things, and I think there was a little bit of nervousness from him. At every level that you play at, especially in football, of course, it gets more competitive. but your first actual snap and first actual game of a season, those nerves are really, really not the best to play around with, especially when you're coming there and everyone expects you to absolutely blow people out, which I think a lot of people were easily expecting us to do that. But we lulled ourselves into a sleep coming into that game, I believe, because we just partially, some of us thought like, oh, this is going to be a cakewalk, and it turned into a fist fight real quick.
Well, tell us a bit more about Mikey. Obviously, we see him limited in front of the media. Always looks very poised, very, very polished. Looks like he's, a confident kid. Behind the scenes, you saw him obviously grow throughout the season. Where did you see him sort of make the most growth? Where did you see him really kind of improve from that Navy game all the way through the end of the Gasparilla Bowl?
I think he honestly improved on his leadership skills in the locker room a lot.
Well, touch on that for a second. How tough is that? He's a true freshman, right? I mean, some of you guys are grown ass men, right? He's a true freshman, fresh off the hacienda in Arizona, and he's just in here like trying to lead you guys. How hard is that? On paper, it's like, oh, no big deal, but that's got to be super tough to ask an 18-year-old kid to do.
Yeah, to be thrust in a situation like that is hard, no matter, a quote unquote a brand new group of guys that you've really only been working with for the past. If some guys didn't come till summer, 3-4 months, and expected them to be like, you expect them to lead is just hard to do, especially on a guy who's 18 who doesn't really know how he fits in a leadership quality. But we had a lot of guys supporting him. Our offensive line was like, hey, we've got your back. Let us know what we can do. You're now one of the leaders, even if you don't want to be. And I think that they really helped him out a lot. And then everyone just kind of circled around him and just kind of like was like, hey, we'll support you. We're behind you. Lead this team the way you can. And I think that really helped him, and he really grew in that role throughout the season.
Well, despite all the injuries, and you went through a bunch of them, even on offense, right? Bowser and Jalen both get hurt. We had some really nice wins. We put out some nice wins against ECU, Tulane, Temple, Memphis, largely due to the defense. I mean, you guys were definitely on point, particularly in that back half of the season. Was there something that just clicked, you think, for the group? Did something that really just kind of hit home, and all of a sudden you guys took off as a defense?
I want to say yes. There's a certain point, especially after Navy, that we're like, what are we doing? We were making simple mistakes that we shouldn't have been making. And we had like I don't want to say a come to Jesus moment, but it's what it basically was. And we realized like we are way better than we were in past years. We need to get this thing going. And it really started with Coach Martin, our defensive tackles coach, helping us find the little things that we could improve on. And then we started working on them in practice. And then that just started compounding on each other every day. And once we got better, the linebackers saw, oh, we need to get better. The DB saw that everyone else was getting better. They needed to get better. It was at a certain point where just everything kind of just fit into place where we needed to mentally. And then we started really having a whole bunch of fun.
The final game of the regular season, we beat the Cows, South Florida, 5 times in a row. Not too many people. How many fifth-year seniors like yourself has 5-0 against the Cows? That's never been done before. How important was that game to you?
Honestly, that game was important because the year before, my quote-unquote senior night was against Cincinnati. So that had left a sour taste in my mouth, to say the least. I was ready to go and do the best thing I could for our team, and was ready for my number to be called that game, and fortunately it wasn't, but I brought energy on the sidelines the best way I could, and everyone wanted to take out their frustrations on the Cows that game because we really needed it. Yeah, you're right. I don't think a lot of people can say they were 5-0 against USF, but it's a good feeling to have, knowing that you can beat your rival school any day of the week, no matter what the season is.
Well, there's a cool video of you running down the field with the trophy in your hand. How heavy is that thing? And were you ready to drop it at any point?
So Alex Ward, our long snapper, had warned me before the game started. Hey, at the end of the game, if you end up getting that trophy first, heads up, it's top heavy. So I'm going to set the scene for you real quick. If the official does we need a official review, they're doing that whole thing. They said, okay, he's down. It's a sack. There's a 10-second runoff. The game is over. Everyone's freaking out. I want to say the 25 or 30 closest to our locker room. I go, yeah, I'm cheering. I look around, like, where's the trophy? My eyes get wide. I'm like, where's the trophy? I look in the corner by the locker room. It's not there. So I'm like, it's on the other side. I bolt downfield. Probably the fastest I've ever ran on that field, honestly. In tow behind me, about 5 yards away, Alex Ward had the same idea I had. We run to the table, and I slam my helmet down on the table, and I lift it up. I'm like, oh, this thing is top heavy. So for like a brief second and a half, I'm like, I'm afraid I'm going to drop this. But as soon as I got a grip on it and then flipped the sign around to show everyone, like, hey, this is us, and then ran back onto the field, I knew I wasn't going to drop it.
That could have been an embarrassing moment if you did.
Yeah, I know. I have 3 different camera angles. Some guy has it from the fans in the stand.
Yeah.
Michael Kubliali was on the sidelines recording me, and then one of our media people was also following behind me and Ward with one of their little cameras on a. So it was fun to say the least.
Is that like a badge of honor for you seniors to go get that trophy? Is there like a competition amongst all of you, like who's going to be the one to go grab it?
No, but it's kind of like we generally only want seniors to grab that trophy just because it's like hey, this is the last time you're going to be able to see this trophy.
Yeah.
It's time. So have a senior grab it. Who was it last year who grabbed it? I think might have been Sam Jackson, offensive lineman, that we weren't sure if they were going to come back. So they last year, and then I just happened to beat Ward to the trophy this year.
Do you guys do the same thing with the civil conflict? The civil conflict trophy? There's no fight to go see who grabs that one, or against UConn?
The funny part is we forgot that trophy existed. I'm not gonna lie. And the funny part is I'm gonna tell this story, and I don't know if Eric DeSalvo is gonna get mad at me for telling this story, but after the first civil conflict trophy, when we left it at UConn, we had completely forgotten about it. Eric DeSalvo apparently had found out that a UConn donor had the trophy in their collection since that 2016 game, I believe, that was at UConn. And they had it in their show with them since 2019. We got it back, I believe, in early 2020, in time for the UConn game that year. And then we didn't have the UConn game that year. So to have it come back was just hilariously funny to us because everyone thought it was fake. But that was a legitimate trophy from the original civil conflict.
Yeah, because people were bringing up pictures of the original one and this one. They were pointing out the differences. So you're telling me it's the real one? I'll believe you.
Yeah, that's what Eric DeSalvo told us, who's our social media coordinator. Which I believe him. He has never led me wrong, at least yet.
All right, so you get your final game of your career. It's against the Florida Gators in the Gasparilla Bowl. Leading up to that game, you guys talk about how important this game is for the program, the future of the program, being able to beat the flagship school like this?
We, at least from a D-line perspective, we weren't really too concerned that this is a flagship game. We were they've been talking smack to us since 2017. We got to show them what we were about. And to say it was the perfect opportunity because they were going to feel like, oh, woe is me, we're down on our luck. Any given day, any team can win, no matter if the best coached team in the entire world. So we were just like, we don't care what happens. We're going to come in playing like they're the USF, and we're going to just take it to them.
You guys punished them. I mean, they dominated on the line of scrimmage, both sides, and really there was no answer. They could say nothing after that game because of the way it went. It's not like we won on a lucky play or a bad call. We dominated them, especially in the second half of that game.
Yeah, and once our I think it was once the Coach Malzahn said the entire that entire week leading up, if we get them in the fourth quarter and it's a tight game, we got this, because we were ready to show what we got. We were ready to make sure that in the fourth quarter, if it was a tight game, we had it in the bag.
Well, obviously, Austin, unfortunately, teams are like their families, and with families, there's drama, there's soap operas, and there's a few different moments this season. Obviously, the transfer portal has brought in a lot of new different wrinkles and elements to the team. Obviously, UCF had a few. One guy obviously left in the middle of the season before the bowl game. Obviously, Dylan announces, and shortly after, Tatum Bethune announces, a bunch of other guys. As a team, how much of the distraction is the transfer portal? How much is that something you guys talk about? Are there guys who, like, you kind of know, like, hey, I think this guy may be thinking about transferring? How much? Because we in the media, we in the fan base, we make it a big deal, right? Every day we're flipping out over who's in the portal and who's not in the portal. Do you guys, even as players, is that even part of your conversation?
I mean, with coaches, not really too much, unless it's like a coach talking about someone we might have played with in high school is in the transfer portal, and like they want their opinion on him. And it's like, yeah, he's good. He's really about it, or nah, he's not really fit for us. Like in that sort of context, we'll talk to our coaches about that. But usually it's just a player to player thing. Like, oh, did you hear so-and-so's in the portal? Oh man, that team's losing that really good player in there. And then there was like a couple guys on our team where like, we wish them the best of luck in their next school and their next hope. I know they're making the best decision for themselves and their families, so I can't blame them. They're my brothers. If they ever call me to help them with something, I will be there the best I can. It's just, unfortunately, with the transfer portal and how the rules are now, it's just kind of crappy in a perspective, to say the least.
Is it a distraction, or is it something where, as a leader, were you hearing guys talk about it too much? We're like, hey, let's just focus on playing the game.
We didn't really hear it too much, to say the least. And it only wasn't until like after the season that we're like, okay, this transfer portal thing's like a real thing. With DG transferring out, he was trying to make the best decision for himself, because he thought not to say he tried to pull a McKenzie, but I think that's what he was trying to go for, but he didn't explain with the team. We might have explained to a couple guys, but didn't explain to like the whole team, like, hey, I'm transferring out because of this reason. But I think in retrospect, that's what he was trying to do, or at least trying to make it look like. He's still a football player. He's still my brother. At least I don't want to ever talk ill about him. The way he went about it, again, it's just something I don't agree with, but he's at a different place now, trying to make a new impact, and I'm welcoming for him to actually do what he's got to do.
Well, I'm not sure if this is breaking news to you, but he's actually at a new welcome place. So tonight he actually changed and went to Oklahoma. So
I saw that
from UCLA to Oklahoma now. Obviously, Levy's there, and obviously they had a connection. I assume that wasn't surprising to you.
No, it really wasn't. I think I saw it earlier today, but I'm actually happy for him because him and Levy were, at least from my perspective, really close and really like able to mesh well and work together well. So I'm really happy for him and I really hope he does well at Oklahoma. Maybe he can do better than Spencer Rattler was their quarterback at the beginning of the season, who's now at South Carolina.
Yep.
Hopefully he does better than him. But I'm looking forward to seeing what he does there.
What about NIL? That's the other thing people talk a lot about, right? So name, image, and likeness. It's a new thing this year. You are listed as a Barstool athlete, so you're somebody who obviously had a chance to dip your hand in there a little bit. How much do you guys talk about NIL? What does a Barstool athlete mean, by the way? How much is that a topic of conversation?
Okay, so I'm just going to go with Barstool athlete first. So Dave Portnoy, I I'm not sure if he's the CEO of Barstool or it could be completely wrong, but he's a very well-known figure within Barstool itself. When NIL hit, he was approached by, I believe, a volleyball athlete. Was like, hey, I want to be the first Barstool athlete. And there's really no incentive, quote unquote, of being a Barstool athlete outside of you get recognized with a very, very well-known media corporation now. But you signed up on a Google form. They got your address. They got a picture of you. They used to do announcements on their Barstool athlete Instagram page and Twitter page. And they'll send you a jacket, a shirt, and some sweatpants. They're honestly the most comfortable things I've ever actually worn. But like, it's some cool stuff. NIL is just kind of a weird, like in my perspective, because even though I've been on the team for 5 years, I really wasn't like a household name, except for, Jan and Britt know me and a couple people. Like, I want to say every fan that I've had an interaction with, they know me. But outside of that, my name's really not that big. So I wasn't really too concerned about having an impact with NIL. I would have liked to do like more with it now and thinking back. But, a lot of people don't really talk about it unless we talk about people getting these like big things like we call it the quarterback from Ohio State who then played a couple games and transferred over to Texas. He signed
Quinn Ewers, I think his name is, or Ewers.
I believe that. He signed apparently a 6-figure deal or something there and left.
Yeah,
I can't do that, but it would have been nice to have a little bit of money in my pocket to pay off my student loans.
But is it something guys are focused on? Where guys like in the locker room talking about like, hey, how much I get this deal, or hey, how much I get this thing working? Was that? I mean, I'm sure it was always kind of happening, but now that it's out front, was that something that was just because as fans, we're assuming the worst is going to happen, right? Schools with big money and big time donors and deep pockets are going to get all the good kids because they're going to give them these 6-figure deals, and schools that don't have that aren't going to have that luxury. So we're all over here freaking out that we think it's going to completely change the landscape of college athletics. You were in the locker room. Do you think that is that realistic in your opinion, or do you think I'm overblowing that?
I think you might be overblowing that in some perspective, but from our locker room, it was more like, hey. They weren't trying to actively go after these brands. The brands were coming to them. And they're like, hey, does anyone know anything about this brand or that brand? I'm trying to know more about what they're about before I agree to anything. And it was more like hey, this might be cool or that might be cool, but I don't really want to like work with them if I don't know anything about them kind of deal. And we would actively tell each other about anything that we were thinking about doing, just to be more open and upfront and get other opinions, but nothing crazy like, oh, I'm going to transfer and go to this school because they're already offering me like money and stuff like that. That didn't happen, at least in our locker room. I can't attest to any other school in the nation, but at least in ours, that wasn't going on.
All right, so we had an idea. You tell me if you think this is going to work for next year. Mike and I are going to try to sponsor somebody. We're going to try to sign somebody up. You're going to be an official Sons of UCF brand rep. We'll send you hats. We'll make sweatpants if that's what's needed. We'll do that. And the only thing we ask is the person comes on the show like maybe once every couple of weeks, does a 15, 20-minute interview, tells us what's going on, talks about the game, and they're our official Sons of UCF representative. Is that a good idea, or will nobody ever sign up for that?
Honestly, you might want to talk to some of the walk-ons we have because I think they would love that, just so that way they get in the media a little bit more, because everyone always sees like the scholarship guys. Yeah. Everyone always sees them, but the walk-ons are the unspoken, like, and unwritten backbones of the football team. Like, we do a whole bunch of the dirty work and almost get no recognition whatsoever. And after being a walk-on for 5 years, if y'all would have approached me in July when NIL dropped, I would have agreed to you in a heartbeat, because it's what we think is all right. But with coming on a podcast during season, there's a couple of media stipulations you might need to work around. But if it's, I don't see a problem with it, but I think it'd be really cool. And I think you might get someone to agree with it. Say the least.
Do you have a recommendation for next? Do you have anybody on the team that's still there that you can recommend to Mike and I that we should start reaching out to?
Tyler Paul. He already did.
We had Tyler on our show. Yeah, he was doing the Big Man, Big Heart campaign.
He
came on to talk about the stuff he was doing with Brett and Jan.
Yeah, that's what I agree with on that. I think that was a really great opportunity for him and a really good cause to go with.
Yeah.
Him is he's one of the ones that off the top of my head I would strongly go after. We got a I'm trying to think of more off the top of my head, but I just because Tyler was like 2 lockers down from me, so me and him would always mess with each other. Another specialist, Joe Rahal. He's another snapper. He's worked with Alex's group, or even Alex Ward himself. I think he'd be a good person to talk to, because all the specialist guys I really had a good connection with. Or even though Anthony Montalvo is now a former walk-on and on scholarship, I think he'd be another one to talk to, and I think he'd really appreciate the thought. Shoot, I
That's
mean,
some good leads there.
Hey, almost any of my D linemen might agree to you and come on and be excited to do it.
We had Cam Good on. Cam was really fun. We had a good time with Cam. He had the deal with Candy Shop, I think, in West Palm Beach, and he came on and talked about what they were doing there. He was really fun. Oh
no, he's 100% probably he's a lot of fun and a funny guy in and of himself. He's trying to work with he's the Candy Shop guy. He actually knows from I think he was in the DC area originally, where Cam grew up, and he ended up meeting him from a random connection. And then when NIL actually started, I think he started working with him because he's like, hey, we've been friends for a long time. Let's get this thing going.
Yeah.
Austin, so what's next for you? You're sticking around football? You get into coaching, or are you putting that degree to work? What do you want to do next?
So right now I am finishing up my master's program in kinesiology at UCF. I am in my 3rd semester that starts next week. Right now I have a job working with spinal cord injuries and neurological disorders at the Center of Recovery and Exercise in Altamont Springs, Florida. At the moment, I don't have any interest in coaching, but I am getting my personal training certification and probably my strength conditioning coach certification, because I end up wanting to be a coach and probably down the line. But at the moment, I'd like to kind of step away from the sport and go into something that I'm passionate about, and that is really just helping people to get better, or especially in the case of what I'm doing at Core, helping people be able to manage, work with a new sense of normalcy, and help them expand and become the best that they can with the circumstances given to them.
Is that something you always enjoyed studying, or is it something in a football field? You see somebody get hurt one time and you say, oh man, I wish I could help somebody like that. Any stories like that or no?
My junior year of high school, I tore my left ACL. And then my senior year of high school, I tore my right ACL. So I was in physical therapy for almost a year and a half. I just want to, help people get better. My sister's a nurse. My mom is a school teacher. So I kind of grew up with the influences of, you're here to help people. And if you get enjoyment out of that, we're 100% behind you. And luckily with Core, I was able to do a internship in 2019 during the summer. And then I just kept coming back to volunteer. Last summer, I was actually able to be hired as a part-time assistant. And I'm back as a part-time assistant, but going to become a full-time trainer here in a couple months.
Awesome.
That's awesome, man. Well, look, we appreciate your time. You've been really generous. But before you get out of here, we end every interview. We ask what we call rapid fire questions. So these are just random questions. Could be music, movies, sports. You never know what you're going to get. So are you prepared to face these hard? These are going to be the toughest questions. You thought the DG questions were hard. You ain't seen nothing yet. These are going to be the toughest questions we got. Are you ready?
Let's get it going.
All right. It's late night or maybe early morning. You've been out, you're having a good time, and you got the munchies. You want something to eat. What's your go-to spot? Where are you going to get something late night for food?
Wawa.
What are you getting?
They have some really good Chipotle mac and cheese. Not gonna lie. That combined with either an Arizona green tea, or depending on where I am in the night, a Gatorade and a water.
Hydration is key. Absolutely.
Yeah, I just had my first Wawa sandwich on the way up to the Gasparilla Bowl, and it was pretty good. I've always heard about it. I was pleasantly surprised. All right, I gave you a time machine, and you can go into the past or the future, where would you choose to go? What year do you want to go to? Future or past?
I would go past. I'd like to actually visit a couple spots. Uh, First off, I'd like to see a speech from President Roosevelt in the 40s, just because he was a very historical person. I'd like to see Martin Luther King Jr. speak at the Capitol in the 60s. I'd like to see the actual first, the legitimate Apollo 11 rocket launch. There's just a whole bunch of spots that I would definitely go to the past to go see.
Awesome.
That took a really serious turn, so let's get back to business here. If you took everybody on the UCF team and you guys did a bracket style of arm wrestling, who comes out the champion? Who's the arm wrestling champion of the 2021 UCF team?
Cole Snyder, 100%.
Now, I imagine Cole, he seems like a really nice guy, by the way. Mike and I spent time with his family at the Cows game. Very nice people. I think Cole's going to play dirty. Am I wrong on that? Is he going to like kick you under the table, or do you think he's just going to legit, strength?
He's going to legit outpower you. Cole, he seems goofy up front because he really is. But he can flick a switch so quick and be the most serious person ever.
All right, noted.
Who's going to win the Super Bowl this year? And who are you rooting for, I guess? What's your team?
Unfortunately, I don't have a legitimate team. I really root for any of the teams that my former teammates have been on. We still got Traquan on the Saints, and then Gabe up at the Bills. I'm hoping either one of them, honestly.
I think Gabe's got a better shot than Traquan at this point.
It's okay. I don't really pay attention to the NFL too much, but just to check on them, that's the only time.
All right, this is a true or false question for you. So, true or false? You own some DG the brand merchandise.
False.
Just couldn't pull the trigger on a purchase. You just couldn't decide between the butterfly shorts and the fanny pack. I mean, just tough decisions.
I just really didn't care. The thing, like, he came out on not really came out on Instagram, but it popped up on my Instagram feed before NIL was a thing, and I was like, delivered greatness or whatever. And I'm like, nah, this is DG's thing. I don't really care for it. I was like, you go make your money off of other people. I'm not going to give you, if you want to give me stuff for free, I'm okay. Or give me stuff at like a little bit of a discount. Sure. But I'm not going to straight up pay full price for it.
But he didn't hook you guys up. There was no like freebies. There was no promo code.
He hooked up a couple guys, I think Jay Flash, because they did like a couple photo shoots with him. But outside of that, nah, if he didn't roll with you in his group, he didn't give you anything.
So Mikey King doesn't have an air freshener in his car?
He might have an air freshener, but it's probably not from DG.
All right, one of the most disappointing things that happened all season, before the Gasparilla Bowl, they canceled the belly flop contest, which was supposed to happen that week. Now, I don't know if you were going to be entered in that thing, but who on the team do you think would have won the belly flop contest?
Ooh, that's a good question there. If Ed wanted to do it, he'd probably win. If Cole wanted to do it, he'd probably win. I'm gonna go with Cole again on that one, because Cole's got enough, especially if he's going off a diving board, a couple good hops, and he goes probably about 10 feet in the air and then just flat.
We had Cam Good as even money.
Cam Good, yeah, I had Cam Good as the favorite on that.
See, I've seen Cole do a belly flop before. I haven't seen Cam do a belly flop. That's the thing that just holds me back from Cam. It'd probably be a good matchup between those two. I kind of need to see it in a bracket style before I actually make a full decision.
All right, I got like two more for you. So I'm dying to ask somebody this question. What did you guys call Big Cat? Did you call him Big? Did you call him Cat? How did you refer to him when you actually want to speak to him?
We would call him Big Cat, or we would call him we'd be like, "Hey, Cat," to try to get his attention. I don't think a lot of guys on the team knew his real name at all, because I think on our website roster it said Big Cat Brian. Didn't even.
It does, yeah.
So I was just like, you know what? I'm just gonna play to it. So he sat right next to me in team meetings, so me and him were always talking. It was funny. I just call him Big Cat or Cat sometimes. That's pretty much it.
All right. Are you able to do a Gus Malzahn impression? And if not, who does the best one on the team?
I have too much respect for that man to try to do an impression. I'm not going to be completely honest with you. Who does the best one? Josh McMullen. He does the best. I think he probably does the best Gus Malzahn impression out of all of everyone on the team. Josh McMullen's actually really, really good at impressions for no reason. Like, it's just a weird talent he has, but it fits him so well. He can make anyone laugh going off any impression. Yeah, I'm not going to try to attempt one because I, again, have too much respect for Coach Malzahn.
You've been there 5 seasons now. You've been a part of the program. You've been a part of many big games. If you could go back and just be a part of any game one more time, what game would you pick?
Be a part of any game one more time. I've never thought about that off the top of my head. But I'd probably go back to that South Carolina State game again and make that tackle.
Get that wrap up finally. Well, you can put it this way. Maybe you engaged those guys so that Nate Evans could come through and make the play. So you took some pressure off. Nate Evans owes you a tackle is what I heard you say.
I'm going to pick that game just because it's that would have been my been a really good birthday present for my grandfather, especially that day. But there's really too many games to be like, oh, I wanted to experience this one moment one last time or this one moment one last time. I'd really like just to go back and experience those times between the games in the off season, during winter workouts, during summer workouts, because I made a lot of friendships, grew a lot of connections, and I love those guys, and I'm gonna miss not being able to do that with them again. But I can always count on them if I need a little help. So
let me ask the reverse. Is there a game you want to forget forever?
Yes. BYU Boca Bowl, 100%. Forget that one forever.
Fair enough.
It was that or Navy, I think. The obvious answer.
Yeah, it's a pretty 2 top-tier games. I'd like to forget if that was possible.
Tulsa maybe in there somewhere too.
Not as bad as that Navy one this past year, and then BYU. Just personal opinion on that one.
Beer doesn't work, by the way, because I drank a lot of beers during those games. I still remember them. They're just as bad. So.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
All right, last one for me: chicken wings, ranch or blue cheese?
Ooh. I'm gonna go basic. I'm just gonna go ranch because I've had some really bad experiences with blue cheese personally.
Yeah,
even when it's not on wings, it's just it gets a little tricky on that case. I mean, it's like half and half almost.
Yeah, speak your truth. I'm with you, Austin. Speak your truth. Mike's a big blue cheese guy. He condemns anybody who's anti-blue cheese, but speak your truth. I'm with you on this 100%.
Yeah.
It's the right answer.
Mike. I'm going ranch on that.
That's a big disappointment.
It happens, but look, this has been a blast. We had a good time catching up with you, and obviously you've been a part of the program for so long, and I think you mentioned not everyone knows your name, but the true diehard fans know your name and know the things that you sacrificed for the program. So we appreciate you taking some time to join us and taking us down memory lane, and obviously we hope to catch up with you real soon. Okay.
I appreciate that. Thank you guys for having me on.
All right, go Knights.
Charge on.
Okay, sons of UCF, both of you, you are the father.
All right, again, a big thanks to Austin for joining us, spending so much time giving us his insight. Again, 5 years with UCF. He's literally seen every part of the ascent over the last couple of years. Been a part of 3 different coaching staffs. Mike, a good kid, fun interview. He gave us a lot of good insight on the program, and good to hear a little bit more about this 2021 season. Good to see he was as mad about Navy as we were.
Yeah, that game seemed to really get under his skin every time we brought it up. That game still angers me, but good kid, man.
Sounds like a bright kid. It sounds like he's got a bright future in front of him. So it was nice to meet him. It's not a name, you mentioned it's not a name that everybody knows, but he's a guy that he went 5-0 against the Cows. And not too many people can say that. Only his class is the only people. Whoever has been here for the last 5 years, I'm not even sure who those guys are.
Yeah.
And
I'd have to do some research on that. When you brought that stat out, I was like, crap, I wish I had known that in advance how to research that. But look, I think it's just good. I mean, there's a lot of drama, I think, surrounding this season. Obviously, Dylan Gabriel added a lot of drama there. Eric Gilliard leaving, 4 games in, added some drama. Tatum Bethune transferring out adds the drama. So NIL was this thing that we were all curious about, and transfer portal. It was just good to hear from somebody who's been in the locker room, who was a part of some of those conversations, who had a chance to kind of see what was happening and kind of understand, was this guy really falling? Are we making too much about all this stuff? Is this really something that's being talked about in the locker room? So it was good to just get some of that stuff understood and get his perspective on it, because I think we're guilty of it, Mike, and obviously fans are guilty of it, as we blow a lot of these things out of proportion. So it was good to kind of get that perspective and sort of hear from the inside what it's really like.
Yeah, and his story as a walk-on, paid his way through college, just an all-around good kid. And it's good to get some inside information, some stories you never heard before. We kind of got hinted at that Frost story before the Peach Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody else had mentioned it, but he gave us a little bit more on that one, told us exactly what happened. So I love talking to these guys, and it makes me feel better about really caring about this team, because you found out every one of these guys is a good guy. How many interviews have we done now? Every single one of them has been a cool kid, right? No, I haven't had one incident with any one of these guys.
That was that one guy. Okay. No, yeah, everyone's been more than gracious, and obviously, sometimes these interviews go long, but I think, he brought it up towards the end. He said, I think a lot of these kids, they've been playing their hearts out, and they love talking about UCF. They love talking football. They love kind of sharing their experiences. So, it's always cool to catch up with these kids. Hopefully you enjoy Austin. We're going to continue to try to see how many other guys we can get on. And as we do, we will continue to bring you as many interviews as possible, Mike. But let's transition quickly. We have the College Bowl Pick'em going on right now. So we got the Sons of UCF group. A bunch of you signed up. We appreciate that so much. Obviously, the bowl season, Mike, is done, except I think for 2 games. I think there's one more random game with LSU and Kansas State. And then obviously Georgia, Alabama will play again on next Monday for the championship thing. So 2 games left. And here's where we stand, Mike. With 2 games remaining, we have a guy, or a person, I guess I don't want to assume it's a guy, that has a 2-game lead on everybody else. So there's a potential for a winner here. If he or she wins one of these games, they will be your winner. If not, if there's some funny business, there's somebody 2 games back that could cause a problem. So right now our leader is somebody by the screen name of Cabo Wabo. Real name is Jay Volbacher. 27-9, Mike. 270 total points in the top spot. Right behind them, though, is S. Maloney. 25-11, so 2 games back. So if for some odd reason Cabo Wabo and S. Maloney have opposite picks, S. Maloney potentially comes in with a tie, which we had not factored in here, so we'll have to figure out what to do there. But right now, Cabo Wabo, an amazing 99.9 percentile from our group right now. He or she is leading, and it looks like maybe they're in the driver's seat to win this cool prize.
27-9, did you say this guy's record was?
Yeah, I did.
That's pretty impressive. Pretty impressive. Or just very lucky is what it is. Nobody knows who's going to win these bowl games. Let's not be ridiculous, right?
Yeah.
I think I'm almost exactly at 500.
You are.
Basically what I've been all year.
Yeah.
If you listen to the picks on the show this year, or for the last 4 years, actually. Because everybody's like me. I think I know a lot about football. You don't know crap about football. Even if you know a lot about the teams, you still don't know what's going to happen. And it's a 50-50 shot. This guy's on a hot streak right now. You should go. Did anybody hit the Powerball? I haven't even checked. I heard it was up big.
I know I didn't.
500 million.
So I know it wasn't me. That's all I can tell you.
I haven't even played it.
I assume it wasn't you, because if it was, you'd have told me by now.
So he's not done yet, though. There is a way to lose. I mean, if he loses, 2 of these games and the other guy wins, there is a tiebreaker. I think it's like the final score of the championship game or something like that, right?
Yeah.
So
yep.
It's not over yet. Don't do any celebrating yet. We still have to send out our gifts from the regular season winner. I gotta give you that guy's address.
You keep saying we, like I control this at this point.
Shannon.
Yeah, so Cabo Wabo, if you're listening, get in touch with us. Send us a DM on whatever platform you want to, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, whatever. Let us know who you are so we can work out the gift exchange if you are indeed the winner.
If he wins.
S. Maloney, you stand by because it may be you as well. I know it's not me and you, Mike. You mentioned that you are tied for number 43. You are 18 and 18. I am tied at number 59 at 16 and 20. So, not a good off season so far for the Suns. I can tell you that right now.
It's been a bad year of picks. But you know what? Like I said, break even. I'm like even Steven. So it's like I didn't lose anything all year, which I didn't because I don't actually bet on these games.
There you go. So that is the update on our bowl pick'em. Again, we'll let you know after these last couple of games what the winner looks like. But we've got a clear, at least a clear 2-person race as it comes down to the wire, Mike. All right, now for the segment, what you came for here. This is Cow of the Week. And what Cow of the Week highlights is somebody or something that did something stupid or idiotic that we think just needs to be brought to light or made fun of, Mike. So we pick somebody or something each week, and you can lead off, buddy. You got a Cow of the Week this week?
Yeah, this guy is like trying to do this on purpose, I think, now for the last couple of weeks. I didn't mention it a couple of weeks ago when Cincinnati made it into the playoffs. Kirk Herbstreit comes out and with a tweet saying, "Oh, I guess there's no conspiracy anymore," or whatever it is, that the G5 can't make it in after complaining for 3 years or whatever, right? That wasn't bad enough. Now he's coming out with the guys can't opting out of the bowl game is not the way it should be done. These kids don't love the game, right? Things like this. Meanwhile, he's taking private jets to these games that he's doing. Let's see him do it for the love of the game. Let's see him do a bowl game for free. I don't think so. So he is the Cow again. I think he's been the Cow on the show a couple times before. Yes, he has.
Yeah, he's been here a few times.
He's a Hall of Famer. He might be Cow of the Week Hall of Famer. He's going for. He's past Don Williams stats now.
Wow.
I don't know. We're gonna have to. Have you been keeping logs?
No,
of these cows?
I knew you were gonna ask that question.
163 episodes.
Not even close.
163 episodes. So that's what? Over 300 cows, 326 cows or something. The first year we did this, we actually did a bracket style. And we took the top 8 cows or whatever it was, and we had a tournament of cows at the end of the. That went away.
Yeah.
Maybe we should get back into that. We need somebody to keep track of the cows, though. Yeah. Herbstreit is definitely the cow this week.
Yeah.
For his stupid comments. Second time in 10 days?
Well, here's the thing about it. Why do you think kids don't care? Because all ESPN does is basically prop up that if you don't get to the playoff, then season's over, right? So they are, by and large, a large issue with why kids may feel that way, because all we hear about is gotta get to the playoff, top four. So if you're not in that top 4, we're basically saying, hey, then the season's over for you guys. All right, so they're devaluing the product themselves by the way they just they amplify everything around the stupid playoff, and the fact that obviously there's no way for them to, at least at this point, agree to expand. Whether ESPN would want to or not, I don't know. But here's the other thing: he works for ESPN, who owns pretty much every bowl except for the Sun Bowl, I think. So they have a vested interest in these kids playing. So was this his way of saying, like, hey, our ratings are good and we want you to play because it's better for ESPN? But on one hand, he's also the guy out there that's basically only talking playoffs and only talking 4 teams. So, I mean, in some respects, he's got to look in the mirror and say that he plays a huge part in the conversation around college football. And if he's displeased that a lot of people aren't always as gung-ho about some of these bowl games, maybe he should figure out a way that him and ESPN can make that different.
Yeah, it's gotten to the point now. The kids want to win the conference, right? Once you don't win your conference, you're obviously not going to the playoffs unless you're in the SEC. So the bowl game is what it is. If you're going to go to the NFL and you don't want to risk getting hurt and costing yourself millions of dollars, you may not want to play in the Bad Boy Mowers Bowl, or the Mayonnaise Bowl or whatever they had this year.
Duke's Mayo. Yep.
So I understand why kids don't want to play. It's not because they don't love the game, but they want to actually get paid to play, millions of dollars next year. So Herbstreit's an idiot. That's all it comes down to. That's what I'm saying. I think he's doing these things on purpose. The things that he's saying are so stupid But it's like he's just saying it on purpose to get reactions out of people. That's all I can come up with.
Well,
He did say he was very tired.
Yeah, I heard. Well, I mean, to be fair, it did get aggregated everywhere. It was on everybody's social media feed. Everybody was talking about it. Later that night, Matt Corral, the Ole Miss quarterback, got injured and didn't finish the game, and it got brought back up at that point. Antonio Brown leaves the game, and everyone's talking about he doesn't love the game, and kids have changed. So it did definitely get attention if that's what he was seeking. But again, he's also sometimes, in this case specifically, he's part of the problem, right? He's part of the culture that gets the problem. And I think it's just a generalization he makes about like kids don't care. And yeah, it's different than it was when he played. I mean, there's no doubt about it. But a lot of things are different. So let's understand the difference instead. Let's figure out how we can make things different or make things better. But instead, he just goes up there and rails against it and just says these kids don't love football. And maybe they don't. I don't know. Maybe he loves football more than anybody in the whole wide world, Mike. Who the hell knows? But it just doesn't sit well when someone's up there just lecturing everybody about how they feel about things when he really has no idea.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like Herb Street's old enough to do the back in my day. This is the way things used to be, and it was so much better. But I guess he's older than I think, right? Is he in his 50s? He's got to be in his 50s.
Probably in his, probably somewhere in his 50s, I guess. I mean, he played at quarterback at like 96. So he's at least got, a bunch of years on us.
Late 40s. Right. So, guys always prefer their time, right? Things were always better back when you used to do it. The NBA was better when Jordan was in it, and this and that. Guys are always saying that. So Herb Street now is that guy. Back in my day, this would have never happened. We were never opted out of bowl games. Yeah, because you probably didn't have the opportunity. You guys didn't think about it. You guys were stupid. You guys were risking yourselves for somebody in Tampa to make money off you while you were getting none of it. Now, the kids today are smarter. They're getting paid to play. And guess what? All these opt-outs are going to lead to guys getting paid to play in these bowl games. These bowl games are going to start paying the players directly. Oh, Kenny Pickett, you don't want to play in the big bowl game? Yeah, you do, because we're going to give you $500,000. Okay. That's going to happen soon.
Wow. Kirk Herbstreit, 52 years old, by the way. Well, to your point, now there's a whole industry around draft prep and everything that goes with the draft. Back when Kirk Herbstreit was coming out, were there camps that you went to? Were there places that you went and trained all off season for the combine? Were there specific drills you were doing to prepare for the combine? No, I think these guys went home, drank a gallon of milk, and hit the bench press, and that was pretty much it, right? Where now, I mean, there are people who make a good living training guys. Every off season we hear so-and-so is going to train with this person over in Arizona, and so-and-so is training with this academy. And so it's a whole industry now and it wasn't when Kirk and some of these guys were playing. So yes, it is different, right? It has evolved. And again, if you want to complain about it, fine, but also recognize you're part of the problem. And then, look in the mirror and start coming up with solutions. It's great to sit around and complain all day long, but what's your solution, Kirk? How do we fix it? What do we do? How do we make it better? How do we make everyone love the game more? And maybe there's some analysis he can do on his end, but he's a deserving Cow of the Week, Mike. I think he's been at least, I want to say 5 or 6 time Cow of the Week at this point.
That's a lot. I wish somebody was keeping track
of
I
really did too.
Who these cows were.
Yeah, I should have wrote these down from the start, but what are you going to do? My Cow of the Week, Mike, is also college football, and it's specifically the Rose Bowl. Is my Cow of the Week, Mike. And here's why. I realized this weekend, I'm watching the Rose Bowl. It was a great game, by the way. Utah and Ohio State. No one played any defense. It was a nice game to watch. But it was 5 p.m. on New Year's Day. And I was thinking to myself, why am I watching this game, right? And then I got on Twitter and I saw a conversation started about something I'd forgotten about. The Rose Bowl, because it's so, in their mind, it's the granddaddy of them all, right? It's the biggest bowl. It's the prestige. It's the history of college football. Apparently, when they did some contract negotiation stuff around the playoff, they basically wrote into their contract that they're guaranteed the New Year's Day 5 p.m. slot. That's the game time every year. It will not change until the contract expires. Which is why they play the semifinals on New Year's Eve, Mike, because they can't disrupt the Rose Bowl time. So they basically had to bump everything up into New Year's Eve so that the Rose Bowl could keep its prime 5 p.m. slot, Mike. So basically, somebody wants me to believe that watching Utah and Ohio State is better for me than watching the playoff. Now, again, the playoff is what it is. I get it. But that's a more meaningful game than watching the 2 playoff games, which are now buried on New Year's Eve, which, I mean, people are usually hanging out, they're hammered, or they're just nowhere near their TV to watch those things, Mike. So the entire college football landscape is turned on its head because of the Rose Bowl. That's crazy.
The Rose Bowl has been They've been a pain in the ass the whole time. It's the reason why the playoffs probably not 12 teams by now.
Yeah, it's the Rose
Because of
Bowl.
this.
It's same thing with if they want to host and what they have to do with the two winners. Like we do all of this genuflecting to the Rose Bowl, and it really just screws up. I mean, in all perpetuity, the game should be on New Year's Day. Those are the games where you think about college football, you think about big games. It's New Year's Day. You can barely open your eyes up. You feel sick to your stomach because you drank too much the last night, and you get back on the horse. You start having some beers, and by 2:00 football's on, and you're good to go. Right? That should be the prime time for the playoff stuff, not on New Year's Eve when everyone's just getting ready to move out, but it's not because the Rose Bowl.
Yeah, you know what the solution to this problem would be? Not all the bowls were owned by ESPN. You had a couple of different networks. You have an NBC say, yeah, go ahead, put the Rose Bowl on. I'm putting the playoff game on opposite of it. What are you going to do about it? But all the games are run by ESPN. That's never going to happen. So they're bowing to the Rose Bowl people. They should just tell the Rose Bowl people, do you care about the Rose Bowl? Nobody cares. In Florida, nobody cares about the Rose Bowl.
No.
Right? That's a California thing. That's I guess, up north, the Big Ten teams care about it. Down here, nobody really cares about the Rose Bowl. I didn't watch the Rose Bowl. I don't care if it's the granddaddy of them all. I haven't watched any of these bowl games. You know me. I watched the game that UCF's in. And this year, I did watch the playoff game. So I didn't boycott it because they finally did let Cincinnati in, G5 team.
There you go.
So I listed my boycott on the playoffs, but I still have not watched one other bowl game. I heard the Ohio State game was fantastic. Don't know anything that happened in it.
A lot of people scored. Yeah, it was just kind of odd in my house. We were kind of taking it easy on New Year's Day, so we weren't really going anywhere. So it was just on, and there was nothing else to do. So I was just watching it while it was on. I wasn't glued to it. But the Rose Bowl, there just seemed to be more in love with the fact that they have a stadium. And in the background, Mike, wait for this. There are mountains. There's a stadium, and then there are mountains. And the sun often will set. And when it does, the sky, wait for this, changes colors. So you've got a stadium with mountains and a sunset. And that, my friend, is why we have to have the Rose Bowl at 5:00. Apparently.
I don't know, but it did bring back a great memory because the Giants won their first Super Bowl in the Rose Bowl in Pasadena. And you're right, it was a beautiful sunset as they were kicking the Broncos' ass. Yeah, 39-20.
Yeah,
it's a nice setting, but yeah, the whole thing is because they have to have the parade in the morning, and it's all one big day. I'm telling you, in California, this is a real big deal. There's people out there that all they know is the Rose Bowl, the parade and the game. So I guess it makes a lot of money for them. It's the only reason. That's the only reason any of this is going on. Money. Yeah. And the Rose Bowl people, or they have pictures of some people at ESPN. I don't know what else to tell you.
Either way, I mean, college football, get it together. Cow of the week, figure this out. I mean, if you figure out the best way to put the product out there for the people who actually want to see the product. I'm sure there were some Ohio State and Utah fans who enjoyed the hell out of that game, and probably some other college football fans. But New Year's Eve is just not a good spot for the playoff games, Mike. New Year's Day, that's where football comes in. I'm not guaranteeing you're going to get UCF Mike to watch, but you got a better chance, I think, than New Year's Eve UCF Mike, because that's not a UCF Mike you want to see.
Yeah, this New Year's Eve, I mean, all I did was watch TV anyway. I told you I was sick. We were supposed to have a party here. We had to cancel it. So I just chose not to watch the other bowl games. I had no interest in them. I really don't care who wins the Rose Bowl or any other bowl that UCF's not in. I watched the playoffs because I was interested to see what Cincinnati could do. I thought maybe they could give them a better game. Their offense sucked. Ritter was what we thought he would be against us.
Yes.
And, they weren't able to just run all over Alabama like they did to us. So that's the only reason I watched the playoff game. And in the second game, it was a blowout. Georgia just took over, and I barely watched that one. I watched the first couple minutes of it, and once it was over, it was over. So yeah, that was it. New Year's Day,
nothing. Well, hopefully you guys are going to watch the Austin Camden interview when it comes out, and hopefully you'll enjoy this episode. It's probably a long one. I don't know exactly how long it'll be at this point, but probably a long one. So we appreciate you sticking in there and giving us a couple hours of your time this week. Obviously, Mike and I are here every week to do the show for you. We're excited. Can't wait to continue to find some more guests to talk to. And then we have our live variety show. That's Thursday nights, 8 to 9 p.m., Mike. Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. That's where you can find that. Trace Trilko joins us for that. So make sure you bookmark that time. Not on Wednesday anymore. We had a couple of special Wednesdays. We're done with Wednesdays. We're back to Thursdays. So, Mike, take the note, Mike. Thursdays.
All right. Yeah, I do need to write that down somewhere. Or put it in my reminders on my phone or something.
Okay. Thursday. We'll see.
Plus, now we have these interviews that you can hear here, but if you want to see these guys, I'm sure we'll come up with some interesting things to do during these interviews, maybe too.
Yeah,
make it a little entertaining for the viewers.
You never know. we'll figure something out here. That's what we do around here at the Suns UCF. But we appreciate you guys for sticking in with us. Again, thanks for listening, watching, tweeting, whatever else, supporting us, giving us 5-star ratings. All that stuff is greatly appreciated. We have now officially embarked on the off season. Mike, transfer portal season is here. At some point, we'll be talking depth chart. We'll be talking spring ball, basketball's in full tilt. Baseball's coming around the corner, Mike. So a lot of stuff coming up ahead. So stay with us. Keep it locked here. Make sure you're subscribing to all the things that we do. And we'll be back each and every week to keep you guys entertained as hell. But until then, everybody, have a fantastic week. We are signing off. Go Knights.
Charge on. Baseball, February 18th. Siena's in town. That's the first one.
Kirk Herbstreet's 52.